Big DC fan, that helps.
Well, she's got flaming red hair, so she wants to dress as Batgirl with next cosplay.
Oh, guys. All right, guys. Welcome to Reels and Heels Live. Today, we're going to be debuting our new intro. So here we go. All right.
Cool.
Wow, there we go. Yeah, our good friend Paul. He made that, and
We're like official now.
we're like official now. Yeah.
Very official.
So today we're going to be talking about comic graphic novel adaptations. Lots have been made into TV and movies over the years, and we have a good roundtable here. So we'll go around and have everybody introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Kevin.
Okay, well, my name is Kevin Boyd, and I've been a comics fan all my life, collector and fan, and I've done a bunch of things related to comics. So I'm the head comics lead for Fan Expo HQ. So I book the comic guests and arrange the comics programming for MegaCon, Fan Expo Canada, Fan Expo Dallas, Fan Expo Boston, Calgary Expo, and a number of other shows across North America. I also am the co-founder and organizer of the Joe Shuster Awards for Canadian comic book creators. You might tell from my accent that I'm a Canadian. I live up in Toronto, and then I've done a whole bunch of things. I used to be CGC's signature series director for many years, and a former Overstreet price guide advisor. Although I think everybody looks at eBay now for pricing, but just a bunch of stuff. So.
And then we have Ryan. Go ahead.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Ryan. I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast called The Nerdcast. I review movies past and present, and I'm also a part of a YouTube channel known as Nerd Culture, where we talk about all things nerdy, whether it be movies, TV series, comic books, video games, anime, that sort of stuff. And I'm just happy to be here, so thanks for having me.
And then down there we have Jerome.
Hi, I'm Jerome Connor. I'm the old fanboy here. I've been collecting comics since '69. I can tell you stories about lost collections and having to rebuild collections. I've been a guest throughout a number of conventions at the Northeast because I'm a known fan. I'm also the co-host of the Saturday Morning Cartoons podcast. And I'm just a basic all-around know-it-all.
Go ahead, Roland.
Right, I'm Roland Mann. I am a comic book writer and a former Marvel Comics and Malibu Comics editor. Most people know me because I spent some time editing Malibu's Ultraverse. I edited about half of those titles. I am also a university instructor where I teach creative writing, and I run the small press comic publishing house, Silverline Comics.
That's awesome.
And I have nothing to do with Kablam. I just realized that, but they print most of my books. So people say I look like Barry, and I'm like, no. I just fly their flag. They print most of my books.
And then last but not least, we have Holly.
Hello, I'm Holly Interlandi. I'm a comic book writer and editor, and I was also editor of Famous Monsters for a decade.
That's
Famous
awesome.
Monsters of Filmland.
See, we got a good roundtable. Nicole is usually here just to listen to all the stories.
Yeah, I just spend my time listening to everybody. It's nice to have another female on the panel. The funny thing is he talks about like all of this, like I should know this list of 30. And so I was in the car, I don't know where I was coming home from, and he was reading me this list of 30, and I went, I don't even know what half of those are. And I felt really bad because I'm like, I'm sitting on this podcast and I don't know stuff. But I mean, the ones that I do know, I think are important. So
Okay.
hopefully I'll be something besides a face.
Well, we can't all watch everything or know everything, so
Hmm.
we fill in the gaps for each other.
So, yeah, I was looking at, a list. I mean, there's so much out there that's been a graphic novel or a comic that's been turned into whether a series or a film. And, there were some of these on this list. I was like, I didn't even know were a graphic novel.
Mhm.
So, we'll start with you, Roland. With something like The Watchmen, which was groundbreaking and still, I think, groundbreaking. People still buying it up. How did you feel when you first heard that they were turning it into a film?
Okay, so you have to understand, I absolutely come from the comic side of things, and I'm not necessarily a film fan or a TV fan or anything. I haven't even seen the Watchmen films. Yes, I know, but part of it is because I like the Watchmen as a comic book so much, and I heard from sources that I trust, which were comic book professionals, that were like, oh, I didn't like this, it wasn't true, the comic book is better, so I just didn't go. You also got to remember, I come from a day and age where I can remember adaptations being bad. Yeah. I can remember.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah,
I
me
can
too.
remember. So I don't get. I always approach this with caution because I'm like, I've seen what they can do to comic properties, and that was certainly my thoughts about Watchmen. Because I think if you read it today, it's a little dated, but it still is a nominal work in the comic book industry. And so I think, I don't know, when I think of things that they can do to it, it concerns me because I don't want it to devalue what the graphic novel actually is, or the comics, whatever you want to call them.
Anybody else want to jump in on there?
Well,
I love the Watchmen film personally. I have not seen the TV show,
oh,
but I was there on opening night for the Watchmen film. I obviously I love the comic, and I thought they did a decent job. I was really actually surprised. I wasn't expecting it to be as powerful as it was. So, I mean, obviously it you can't. It's like comparing apples and oranges when it comes to like the comic and the movie, but I was still really impressed with the film.
I watched the TV show as it was airing, and it was much more faithful to the comic than the movie was, and it was very powerful. And Roland, as to your comment about horrible adaptations, I just have two words for you: original Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, but yeah, the Watchmen was real touch and go, because I remember when it came out back in 84, 85, and it was, for all the fanboys, it was like, hey, what's weekend is this? You go, well, it's 3 weeks till the next Watchmen issue. I mean, that's how much excitement that book generated. And the moment issue 12 came out, there was immediate talk of adaptation to the films. I mean, could you, the big talk was like Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dr. Midnight.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, we're not sure we can handle quantum physics quoted in an Austrian accent. But the Watchmen has been talked about since it came out for adaptation. And I think they did an okay job.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed the casting. I thought Patrick Wilson was perfect as Night Owl. I understand the comic side of things where people are touchy on when certain comics or graphic novels are even touched by Hollywood. And I know people had issues with the ending, changing the ending to Watchmen. But as a film fan, I think what Snyder did with the ending of that film made more sense in a Hollywood way than what the book was saying.
I agree with that.
Yeah, you got the Watchmen right there. Yeah.
Visual
So-
props.
I'm just gonna, but I'm gonna say I am gonna just gonna weigh in here because this is a conversation we have all the time. Was the book better than the movie? And I kind of always err on the side of whatever the original was. So like, because I'm a teacher, so I apologize, straightforward. But I'm always gonna say, and I'm a reading teacher at that. So on top of all of that, like literature is always going to be better. But I think there's two things that we have to think about too is can the source material, can the book be translated into something that we could watch for an hour and 40 minutes or at the very most 2 hours and 15? So whatever we have to take from the written word is what we have to develop to be portrayed on screen in that time period. Because nobody wants to watch something. Well, in most cases, nobody wants to watch something for 4 hours to play out the book on screen. And I get that. But there are a lot of times when the book was innately better than what they put out there for us to see. And I know he has a problem with that. He always argues with me. But I was one of those people, like I saw the Watchmen movie before I read any excerpts of the comic. So I was like, well, it wasn't terrible, but there are some things we have to think about in time too. Like in order for it to be relevant on screen, we also have to make it visually acceptable for the time period. Like the time period the book was written is much different than the time period when the movie was released. So the relevancy is important too. So I think like we can't just say, well, the book was better or the source material was better. I mean, look at it for what it was. It was for entertainment's sake. So take that with a grain of salt, as I'm the resident person that the book is always better. But
well, in defense of what you're saying there is you could not have the cut-ins of Tales of the Black Freighter while that movie was running. It would screwed up the flow of the film.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So you can't, you obviously are going to have to cut that out, but from the perspective of the literature, that was a valuable insight to the characters and everything else going on to the storyline. And it just added so much depth to it,
Yeah. And the argument I always have with her is when anything, whether it's a novel or a comic being adapted into a film or a show, is that when the filmmakers are making it, it's their job to make the best possible TV show or movie that they're making. They're not, they have to kind of please the fans of the source material, but their main job is to make the best project that is at hand. And that's my argument with when they're making stuff.
I understand that, but you can't give up. There are so many things you can't give up when you're trying to tell a story. And you can't give up character development, and you can't give up, like truthworthiness. Like you have to make sure that the stuff that happened in the book, if you're going to make it happen on screen, it has to be truthful. Like I think that sometimes is the issue with people not liking certain properties, is because the continuity or whatever issues get in the way. So keep in mind.
I don't think any of the filmmakers or TV people ever set out to make a bad version or a bad adaptation. But the problem with literature, I think, is that literature can be personal. And, there are 7 of us here, and 7 of us can read one work, and we can each take something different from it. We can each interpret something. So if we say, I read this thing, and this is what it meant to me, and this is, but Jerome might say one thing, and Holly might say another thing, but we all read the same work. The problem is when you get a film, then it is one person's vision and interpretation of what that literature was. Doesn't mean it's a terrible or it's wrong. It just means that what happens is that they've taken that literature thing and they've interpreted it to make it into a film. And this is why I think fans will sometimes say, I didn't like it because of this. And it's just, and I think that's, for me, that's kind of where the difference between a film thing that's been that is an adaptation of a book can have problems. It doesn't match segments of the reading the reading population. It doesn't match their vision.
I think because the nature of literature, you can always pack more into a book or a comic book than you can on screen. That's just the way it is. You can pack more into scenes with words than you can on screen. And I for that reason, I think that actually the most successful comic book adaptations are ones that are based on very short works.
Yeah.
And I feel the same about literature in general. I think short stories make better movies than novels.
Yes.
In general, because with a film, there's only so much you can put on screen, and sometimes with a short story, that's all you need to make a great film. So I feel like one of my favorite comic book adaptations of the past 20 years was the 30 Days of Night, which was based on a very short 3-issue series. And I think because the original material is so short, they were able to capture the scope much better.
Holly, that also works in literature too. Like if you've got a short science fiction story, okay, a classic one is since you guys are going to be talking horror later on, is Who Goes There? Okay, and what did they turn it into? They turned it into The Thing.
Yeah.
Okay, not once but twice.
Yeah.
And the short story in such as like that and other things works much better because you don't have there's not a lot of extraneous stuff that you have to pull out of like in a novel.
Yeah,
and in a novel, you got to pull out that taxi driver who you just spent the last 3 pages writing a backstory about. Short story, he's just the Joe taxi driver.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
You're absolutely right.
Kevin, it looks like you want to say something.
Well, no, I mean, I'm thinking in the terms of Watchmen too. I mean, Watchmen is such an important work for comics, and it broke so many boundaries as far as storytelling and presentation. And I think the Watchmen film is a decent adaptation of the basics of the graphic novel, but it doesn't get into some of the time changes and maybe a little bit with Dr. Manhattan's origin story. But I think the TV show is actually a much better work in that it was inspired more by the graphic novel in the way that it told the story, and it used television and film in a new way, in a sense, to tell those stories. Each episode was different. It didn't go into the same old territory, but it took those characters into new areas. And I think when we're looking at things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and other television properties that are successfully translating the spirit of the comics, but not doing direct adaptations, I think those are much more successful, and that's where we're going. We're using comics as inspiration as opposed to templates.
Well, there's a book I have in the house which basically says that the comic book superhero is basically our modern day mythological Greek gods. And they have all the adaptations and everything else like that. And so we're just changing our our god stories, our Hercules, our Zeuses and all that. We're just changing them. And that's what it appears, having read that, it changed how I looked at all the superheroes,
Yeah, I think what you said there too is the key. I think if they can capture the spirit of the original, I think that's what's gonna make fans happy. Because I'll tell you, one of my problems with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was that it didn't, from my perspective, it didn't capture the spirit of Spider-Man because his powers, his web shooters were biological, and I looked at it and said, no, wait a minute. Peter Parker is a genius. Peter Parker created the web shooters. They don't come from his body just because he was bitten by a spider. That changes the character. From my perspective, is like, no. It means that he's not a genius anymore. It means he's just a mutant spider. and so I think that kind of went against the spirit of what Spider-Man was.
Yeah, that was one of my issues with that. And I feel that the Spider-Man character kind of has the same issue as like Batman 2 when they have the actors portraying, Peter Parker and Bruce Wayne. It's like they're either good at being Peter or Bruce and they suck at playing Batman and Spider-Man, or they're good at Spider-Man and Batman and they suck at playing Peter or Bruce.
Man, there's a whole list of Batman actors that you can go through and do that with.
Yeah.
George Clooney. I'm sorry. Must have caught something
I do have
in
to
the
say
air.
George
I
Clooney
apologize.
Yeah, that's okay, Ryan. We're glad, got that out. Yeah.
Must be coming down with something. I don't know. Oh boy.
So like for the older people that that are older than me,
Hold
that
on a second.
hold on.
Who you calling old there, sport?
Hey,
So,
I think I'm the ancient
when you're
one.
looking at
What age is old?
Yeah.
What counts as old in the year 2020?
okay, so when you're looking at stuff like the old Adam West Batman, and of course even back before that to George Reeves Superman, that were loosely based on the characters. I mean, do you think that adaptations back then could have been made properly, or no?
They were. Okay, you go back further. Okay, you've got a Shazam. You've got a Captain America. I mean, the movie serials were huge. There's tons of the movie serials that they had of the superheroes. Okay, but did they make the adaptations? Yeah, if you go back and look at the source material of that time, you look at the Supermans of the 1950s. George Reeves and Superman were pretty, they're pretty tight on it because of the Comics Code Authority. So, in the 1960s, the same with Batman. Okay, the source material at the time was tame. We're looking at the 21st century stuff because we've gotten rid of the code, and now everything is basically a better product. But if you're talking source material, you got to look at the time that the material was that you're filming in.
I mean, I think the early adaptations, even when they did have to change it, they pretty much become their own beast. Like,
Yes.
Moving on, like look at DC basically bringing out a Batman 66 series, or like Wonder Woman 77. They're based on the different versions that were originally adaptations anyway. So it's like you're going back and forth, and so I think that's a really interesting. Really interesting way to metastasize the actual original materials, changing it, and then going back and capitalizing on it again.
I mean, the Fleischer cartoons from Superman cartoons from the 1940s are some I still look at today as some of the very best Superman animation.
Oh, the Fleshers.
Yeah. Dave and Max Fleischer did like 10 or 12 of them or something like that.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I think I had a VHS tape of those episodes that I got. Hold on a second. We can take a trip back to nostalgia.
I happen to have mine right here.
Okay, I
talked about visual props. My wife has tried to throw these away, so I have to tuck them away down here.
No, it's all right. This was before the birth of DVDs. But yeah, I think I got my VHS at like Sam Goody or something.
Just because I have so many of them. It's not. She doesn't hate Superman or
oh, okay. Because I was gonna say.
No. And I don't mean throw them. When she tried to clean house, like you don't need 5 of these because they're all the same thing. Right?
I mean, I remember in 70, I think it was 78. Was it 78? Wait a minute, I'm doing my brain trick. Whenever Chris Reeves Superman came out.
Yeah, it was 78. Yeah.
78.
Thank you. I went and saw that in the theater. Okay, I'm that old. I went and saw it in the movie theater. I remember it, and
it's okay. It's just a number. It's all right, man.
But when I watched it, yeah, I could believe a man could fly. That was the ad.
Oh, yeah.
And the source material at that time was very similar.
Yeah.
That was what's going on. So whenever you talk source material, you got to realize that the movies or the shows that you're watching, depending upon when they came out, now the source material is actually 2 to 3 years older than the film you're watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
For that Superman film, did they use actual story arcs from the comics?
Probably, but I don't know. You'd have to ask the oh god, I can't think of the director's name now.
Richard Donner.
Donner and the producers. I mean,
the Salkinds.
Thank you. I keep seeing the opening credits, but I can't remember the names now. It's old age, But yeah, I mean, the source material at the time, you go back and look at it. This is the time when you had the giant size magazines of Superman versus Ali and Spider-Man versus whatever, and the Incredible Hulk versus Batman. I mean, that was the time of that. And if you look at Chris Reeves' Superman, it's kind of the similar style, So, source material is 2 to 3 years before the movie that you're watching or the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
funny
sorry,
with-
old man talking here.
No, it's funny with the
Number, man. We're all young
with the
at heart,
Christopher
let's be
Reeve
honest
Superman.
here.
With the Christopher Reeve Superman, I actually watched it. My parents taped it off television, and
Wow.
the signal was so bad that like the entire first sequence on Krypton was like you could barely see what was going on.
You could barely
And-
see
and
what
now-
was going on in the theater too. So you know.
And now every time I see like a Blu-ray of Christopher Reeve Superman, I'm like, dude, this looks amazing.
Yeah. And back then, you know, what was it? Jarrell didn't say it was Krypton, it was Krypton.
Yes.
You know, the Brando accent. So you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brando was half trashed half the time when he did that film anyway.
That's
So
right.
you know.
He got paid
Yeah.
$3.5 million for that. So.
Yeah. What was it? Less than
Yeah.
15 minutes screen time.
10 minutes actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should see
Yeah.
the behind the scenes pictures of that section of them. You know, it's quite
All
funny.
the glass.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we could do a whole show on Brando and how hard he was to work with on set and stuff.
Or we could just talk about his great performance in that little indie film on the waterfront, because I can talk
Yeah.
about that all day.
Yeah, there's that too.
So another one that here popped up on my list since you brought up the MCU was Captain America: Civil War, which it did stray from the source material a bit, but it. I want to hear Holly's interpretation on what she thought of it.
Oh well, it mostly. I'm a little bit bitter because I'm a huge Cat fan, and I was very happy with the first two Cat movies. And back when those were first being made, people were speculating on what future Avengers story arcs could be, and they always took Civil War as an Avengers arc. So because there are so many other characters in it. So when they decided to basically, infiltrate my Cat movies with with so many other characters, I was like, why? Like it just pissed me off. That's why I'm bitter, because I wanted more Cap and less Iron Man angst. But that's just a personal preference.
I enjoyed the film. I know everybody was expecting Cap to die at the end because fans of the series knows how it ends with him on the steps there. And Kevin, did you like what they changed, or did you not like what they changed?
I mean, they kept the Registration Act, but they changed a few things along the way. I definitely liked Civil War a lot, and it's a film I actually watched again this week. There's so much to it, and I agree, it's basically an Avengers movie, but they call it Captain America because the Winter Soldier arc more or less concludes in that movie, and it's the driving thrust for why they're assembled in Germany. They're trying to capture the Winter Soldier, and anyway, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean, I thought the acting was fantastic, and I liked the changes. You couldn't really adapt something like Civil War as it is, because the comic Civil War was more or less, you have to be familiar with like 20 years of Marvel Universe history to get to that point. So here you have the cinematic universe equivalent where the government is logically stepping in to shut superheroes down, or at least control them. And I thought that, again, naturally you had the same sides as you would get in the comics. Captain America is against registration, Iron Man is for it. So I don't know. I thought it was great. I had no problems with it, and I wasn't expecting Cap to die, because I know that the Marvel writers try to keep the spirit of the original work, but they're willing to go where they need to for the next piece in the puzzle, and that would be the Avengers had to be split up for Infinity War.
That's actually a good thought process of that. And I know,
And it would have been a tragedy to kill off America's ass.
That's true.
Just saying.
Well, but they sort of ended up warping his character arc anyway by the end of Infinity War. Like, I'm gonna go back and
Live with
be
my
with
girl.
Peggy, and it was like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew they were gonna send him back in time somehow, but Yeah.
You did it all in the span of less than 0.5 seconds. I don't know how that works. But,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, it's
Just on
like
a,
what's his name? It's like Ant-Man said. You mean all that stuff we learned about time travel and Back to the Future was bullshit?
Right.
I thought Back to the Future taught me what time travel was, or the Terminator, or Terminator 2. But I guess it was all a bunch of malarkey, whatever it was. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm speaking in the wrong language. I have no idea what's going on. Time
Well,
travel? What is that?
it seems like every movie that tries to do time travel makes up their own rules. So
Oh,
I thought
totally.
Back to the Future had some really ridiculously good-looking rules, but apparently Ant-Man blew it out of the water. Thanks a lot, Ant-Man.
There's a lot of science fiction books that deal with time travel and a lot of rules and different aspects of it.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
Time Machine with H.G. Wells. Yeah.
I got a better
There
one
are
for
no
you.
real rules. It's easy to make up rules. You know,
Yeah.
like you can do whatever you want, as long
Mhm.
as it's based in some sort of science.
yeah, and then so since Kevin did bring up that Civil War was kind of a continuation of the Winter Soldier, which was a change for Marvel because that was like when they started doing the whole like different genres within the MCU. They decided to make a political thriller, and I thought that to me is one of top 5 best comic book films of all time.
Best Marvel movie ever.
Well, I'll say this about the Winter Soldier. That's also one that most people don't even talk about. This was the movie that sort of legitimized comic book movies because you had Robert Redford in it. Okay, you don't get much more legitimate of an actor. You know, I mean,
Natural.
you look at but you look at like okay, who most of our actors are that are the heroes. Okay, up until these movies came on, they weren't really big name actors. The only one that was really a big name actor was Robert Downey Jr. as an Oscar nominee, but he had been,
Anthony Hopkins.
yeah, but nobody was paying attention to Hopkins in those roles. Okay, but you look at when Iron Man came out. Okay, people thought, why did people say that Robert Downey Jr. was perfect for it? Because they all remember that he basically almost died from alcohol and drug addiction. That's what he was remembered for. He wasn't remembered for Chaplin, okay, which is a dynamite movie. He wasn't remembered for all the other films that he had done. They only remembered him for his addictions. And when he took on Tony Stark, everyone's going, yeah, that's Tony Stark. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good redemption story.
Yeah. And now he's ultra rich, like Tony Stark.
He's a billionaire playboy philanthropist.
Yeah, there you go.
He is Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Literally.
But so Winter Soldier comes along, and you've got all these fairly big name actors in there who are basically what Hollywood considers legitimate actors versus guys like Chris Evans, who we all love and adore as Cap. But Hollywood doesn't consider these guys legitimate actors. They just go, okay, you're just blockbuster movie guys. You know, you're not somebody who knows how to articulate an emotion. Suddenly you get Redford, and now you've got legitimacy across the board, and now you have everyone else showing up. I mean, you know, Ben Kingsley, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bucky has a lot to say about this. He is literally named after the Winter Soldier.
Good name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see you have this one circled. You want to talk about that one?
Well, no, I
When
don't,
something
but-
is circled, it means it's very serious on anyone's docket.
Yeah, we got to be serious now.
Well, mostly because it's 100% my favorite comic of all time, but it's also one of my favorite movies of all time,
Oh,
and minus the subsequent sequels that came after it. But J.O. Barr's The Crow.
Yes.
Oh yes.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Oh,
Because I completely
Brandon
agree.
Lee. Yeah.
I mean, like from a standpoint of just the art all by itself that stands alone, the power in the art itself, to have it transferred on screen, as I don't think you can replicate the power of the art, but I think it was a very nice adaptation to see how beautiful
They tried.
the darkness could be. I thought it was pretty cinematically. I thought it was like the lights were light and the darks were dark, and I thought it really worked really well together. But you know, you can't transfer J.O. Bar. I don't think you can transfer J.O. Bar to the screen.
Oh no.
As it should be. But I thought that the writing was pretty good, and I didn't. I mean, I love Brandon Lee, so like that aside, I mean, think about somebody who didn't get to be a legitimate actor.
I mean, that was going to be his.
Yeah.
I mean, that was going to
big
be
breakout thing.
his breakout, and I think
Yeah.
that for the most part, he solidified his place in cinematic history. But just the storytelling of the film, I don't know if it was 100%. Like, it's been a while since I've seen both of them together, but I thought it was a fairly good adaptation. But I thought that they harnessed equally what needed to be beautiful in the film too. Like, I thought that
Yeah.
the characters got developed and that there was that kind of color in the film too. Like, there's, I don't know what the cinematic words are for it, but it was pretty on screen, and I enjoyed watching it, even in the most dark and the darkest parts of the film. Like, I mean dark, but I also mean dark like the absence of light.
That would be
Because
cinematography.
yes, if you watch any like any of the previous episodes where I complained about Zack Snyder and how dark his movies are, I don't mean like dark like
Instagram
noir.
filters.
I mean dark like fucking turn the lights on, man.
Yeah. I can see that. I can understand that complaint.
I don't like not seeing, like, there are certain times when you don't want to see what you don't want to see. You know, you don't want to see it, but like I want to see certain things, and I think that in The Crow they managed to bring that darkness into kind of a.
It definitely played a character, and
It played a character, but it was nice to be able to actually see the characters too. Like in so many other movies where I'm like, I don't want to watch it because I can't see. Like you know, like if I can't see your face, I don't give a shit what you're trying to exude because I can't see your damn face.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
So, but I want to hear from everybody else because I lack the words to put to put my emotions for the book and the movie into words. Like, I lack it.
No, same.
I love it. So
They're both. I'm with you. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. One of my favorite comics of all time, and I was the perfect age for it. You know, it came out when I was 14. I've still got I've got my Crow Real Love Is Forever ring on right now. And I ordered from the CD mail catalog in 1995.
Wow, these young
Another
kids
great
today.
year. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm with you. I get so emotional about it because it's a movie that means so much to me. I almost can't look at it objectively, you know.
I think it's what it spoke about, that connection to life and death, and the fact that we're never really apart from the people we love, and that we're tied to them for eternity. And I think that was the beauty of it. And I think that feeling is hard to articulate on screen, but
I think that's why Brandon was attracted to the role as well. I know he was a huge comic book fan. He collected comic books way before that. I mean, I think when he made Rapid Fire, he was talking about how he loved comic books and stuff like that.
But I think
that was his father's
really
philosophy,
amazing,
though, about life and death and all that.
But I think they picked amazing people to support too. Like,
Yes.
I think when you put Ziggy Pop, right?
Iggy Pop was in the sequel.
Oh, yeah, he was in the
boy,
sequel.
the sequels. Woo.
I'm trying to think of the other guy.
That's
What
another
was
case.
his name? I can see his face, but I can't see. I can see the character.
Well, the
but
guy with the long blonde hair was Michael Massey, and then the bad guy in the overall film with the black hair, that was Michael Wincott from Three Musketeers from our friendly neighborhood Disney studio.
Yeah. He was
Tony
good.
Todd.
that overall,
Tony Todd was
like,
also in it. Ernie Hudson.
Tony Todd, yeah.
yeah.
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie, and Winston,
Wasn't
Zeddemore from Ghostbusters, he's in
Wait,
there playing the
was he in
straight
the first
cop.
one or the second one?
First one. Ernie
First
Hudson was top.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
they all
good
kind of,
actors.
the only one that doesn't blend in with there's two that I love the first one. I can live with the second one. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking when they made the third one, but okay.
And the fourth, yeah.
But like the two kind of blend together because I always watch them together after the first one came out. I always watched the two of them together. Like I couldn't watch one without the other. Like I had to watch them at the same time. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm crazy. I don't know.
City of
Whatever.
Angels, yeah.
But I mean, I think that they didn't. I don't know. Somebody else talk.
Well, when I saw it back when it came out in '94. This is just before my first marriage. I went out actually and bought the book after I saw the film, and I got to admit that book is even darker than the movie. I mean, you're talking death and stuff like that, and all that. I'm just looking at it going, I had to put it down a couple of times because it was so disturbing, and and I mean, I missed out meeting Barr at an event. He had to cancel for whatever reason, but he had stated that he wrote the book because somebody close to him died in a similar way.
Oh,
That
his
was
fiance died in a car crash.
Oh, was it? Okay,
Yeah.
then all right. But
And he wrote the book
way-
as a response to that. Yeah.
Write a dark and gloomy graphic novel that sell millions of copies.
Yeah.
But I think that should be like the reason movies and comics and books and all of that appeal to us is because we can make a connection with whatever they're trying to say. Like,
oh yeah,
I think that book helps me deal with a lot of the loss that I'd experienced in my life, and that knowing, like, even if it's somewhere across the time-space continuum, we will meet again, and that love will be as strong. And I'm comforted by that. I think, like, even in my angsty, blackest of all black, attitudes and depression, I think you can kind of get on that and be like, okay, well then I can get through this. Like there's something to look forward to that is something to look forward to. And I think that they really, I don't know, for me, they put it on screen. A lot of times we look at the comic books and they can't put that on the screen exactly the way it is in the book for lots of reasons. Spandex, but lots of reasons. And then you see, the Crow, and you see kind of this nicely adapted picture of what it could be on screen. Again, somebody else talk.
Where are we going with this? No,
Yeah.
look, I'll be honest. I'm on the flip side of this. I grew up on movies my entire life and still do to this day. I love movies to death, but I didn't see The Crow until a few years ago for the first time because I heard about it over the years and people keep telling me how good of a movie it is, but I didn't get to this party until very, very late. But you know what they say, it's better late than never. So I sat down and I watched The Crow and I'm like, dang, this movie's good. And I'm a fan of revenge movies. I'm a big fan of revenge movies. Anytime a character gets payback on somebody or something that wronged them, I'm like, yeah, man, lay the smack down. That's what I want to see. I want to see somebody breaking necks and cashing checks. And The Crow did it pretty darn well, especially for the outfit he was wearing for the time. When you get a trench coat and the face paint, and this later on to inspire one of the greatest pro wrestlers to go as the Crow of all time, and I'm talking to you, Sting. I mean, that's awesome. It's great. That's how big of an impact The Crow had, is that Steve Borden dressed up as the Crow with his Sting character in pro wrestling. That's awesome. Like, that's really cool. And The Crow's a good movie to boot. So if you're looking for a good revenge movie or just any kind of movie that's dark and gritty in general, look up The freaking Crow, man, because that's a good one. I mean, I liked it so much when I watched it to the point where, okay, I need that as my Blu-ray collection stat. And then I went out and got it for how much was it? Like $5 at Best Buy in the bargain bin? Fantastic. And then I had James O'Barr sign it a little while later at a convention, and there you go.
I also recommend you go out and get the soundtrack.
The soundtrack, yes.
Yeah, it's a dynamite
Both the
soundtrack.
score and the soundtrack, actually.
Yeah,
Graham Revell's
yeah.
sure is also amazing, but also the
music.
full
The
soundtrack.
music really played a huge role in that film. Without that music, that film, it wouldn't be as powerful.
Yep, totally.
I have to add that to my retail therapy shopping list.
There you go.
Since
Yeah.
2020 started, because as we all know, 2020 has been not so good of a year.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny that you mentioned revenge films because in the horror podcast that I do, just a couple days ago, we did an episode on revenge films, and The Crow was our ultimate.
That's
ultimate.
okay. There's a lot of revenge films out there to choose from many different genres.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it, Devin.
Which
So
is
I'm
one of the
looking at-
many beauties of film, but I digress.
Yes.
So let's talk about a film that where we say that sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, and that's The Spirit.
Oh, the Spirit.
Oh man.
Oh
The
yeah,
less
Oh, wow.
said,
I
the
remember
better.
seeing that in the theater.
Oh, you
Mhm.
poor man.
Hey man, I was psyched from the trailer, and granted, I was a bit younger than I am now. I'm a lot wiser of a man than I was.
Yeah,
when
I
was
saw
a
it in the
much younger
theater, too.
person.
Yeah.
Well, what we
Yeah,
need to
me too.
remember about The Spirit is that it came out the same year as Sin City, and so
And that was
everybody was
yeah.
really into that aesthetic at the time. So they were
Mhm.
like, oh, we can make this movie and have the same aesthetic, even though the characters and the plots are totally different. It didn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I've never
At least-
actually been able to finish it.
Oh well.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. At least the lead actor of that movie landed on his feet. And I'm talking about Gabriel Macht, who went on to play Harvey Specter on USA Network Suits. So good on him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was also they made that TV pilot movie, I think, in the early '90s or
Oh.
whatever.
With
And
Flash
they never-
Gordon, right? Sam Jones was the Spirit in that, I think, right?
Was he? I
Oh,
gotta go
wow.
look that up.
Oh,
I
really?
gotta look that up.
I've never
I didn't
seen
even know
that
this
one.
existed.
Yeah.
Well, I believe it's on the DC Universe app. The
No.
yeah, it was horrible.
And I think we know why.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Let's see here.
But you did mention Sin City, which was very popular.
1987.
Yeah.
I love Sin City. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm in the minority. I like both films. A lot of people trash the second one, but I like the second film. I like both.
I gotta say, Sin City doesn't really hold up to multiple viewings, in my opinion. You know?
I like it when I'm having a nasty day and I need some revenge. That movie contains revenge plots. So
Another revenge film. There we go.
turn
Yeah.
on Sin City or Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, and then you can just watch those films and enjoy yourself.
Is it because Frank Miller, like a lot of his work, might not translate well to film? Is that what you think the issues are?
Oh, I think it's the opposite. I think Frank Miller is very cinematic, and I think that's why Sin City is memorable, is because it's literally an adaptation, shot by shot, of some of the panels from his comic,
Yeah.
with especially with the use
cast,
of the
too.
color and the spot. Yeah, but
But
I
the
think
cinema. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, sorry, I was going to go off and on about the Spirit, but let's stick to Sin City.
But the cinematography of the different, basically short stories, basically
Mhm.
made that film unique. Okay, I mean, if you look at the Yellow Boy one and how that
Yep.
one is shot, and you look at it, and then you go to any of the other ones, each one, the cinematography is a different setup, and you get a feel that you've got a different film. Was it like 5 stories during the whole thing?
Mhm.
You
I
got
think,
5
I think in
different
both
stories.
films. Yeah.
Yeah, and that added to its uniqueness that people really liked, because it was something new. It hadn't been done
Mhm.
before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, it had a pretty decent cast as well, I thought.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
stacked cast. Are you
Yeah,
kidding
it was.
me?
Yeah, it was dynamite cast.
Yeah, Dynamite's one way to describe it, but yes.
Well, and Robert Rodriguez even gave Frank Miller a co-directing credit
Yeah, he
Because
did.
of-
On
because
both
of the
yeah.
direct
Yeah.
adaptation. So
hmm
But then you also have Miller's 300,
Oh,
which is
I
also
love that
very
one.
cinematic, and
That
it
was
was
when
great
I was first
adaptation of his.
introduced to Zack Snyder.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love 300. I think 300 really captured it. And ironically, 300 is actually a sort of remake of a previous one. Miller himself has stated there was a film that he saw that was basically about the 300 as a kid, and then he went and wrote the book, and then they did the, I'd have to go look that up, but I saw in an
Yeah, it's,
interview.
the 300 Spartans was
Yeah.
the movie,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, hence we have a remake of a book. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's transformative. That's the way it works. Like a remake of an adaptation of an adaptation of a remake.
Yeah, there's remake
wasn't
of a
that-
remake of a reboot and a threequel. I mean, there's so many lovely words that Hollywood likes to toss around. I'm telling you.
Mhm.
Wasn't that the film that also introduced us to Gerard Butler?
It was indeed.
It
That was a
was.
nice break.
Yeah,
I
what was
don't
it?
believe there's a better film that could have at that point.
Tonight we dine in hell. This is Sparta, and then he kicks the guy into a giant pit that's actually green screen, but it looks like hell. So
And then he went off and did a bunch of cheesy ass romantic comedies. And I was like, what are you doing?
I saw one of those in the theaters, and it was horrible. It was
Oh,
horrible.
God.
Well, then he saved the president, so you know,
well,
whatever.
3 times too. 3
Yeah.
times he
Yeah.
saved the president.
Mhm.
3 times. It got the trilogy, and then he did his Geostorm, and he did what else did that kid do?
Oh,
I mean,
jeez.
he did one too many of everything. So I haven't seen a lot. And Gerard, if you're watching this, I haven't seen all of your work yet. So don't come at me, man.
But you gotta kind of give, like, I wanted to just go back to like Sin City for a second though, because there
Oh,
are
sure.
certain people that can adapt a certain kind of book to the
Mhm.
screen. Like I think that the way Sin City was adapted and then shot is what made it a successful adaptation.
I mean,
Like
Robert
it
Rodriguez
was
is fantastic.
it was phenomenal. And then I know that they tried to, you know, duplicate it in so many other ways, but like it was phenomenal. And so you paired the right, you know, you paired the right wine to your meal. Like you put them together and you made it happen. And I think that that's sometimes what we don't get is that, you know, it's lackluster when you fall short and you see here like, okay, what do you mean Batman has nipples? Wait a second. Like,
George Clooney.
hold on.
George Clooney.
Hey, Batman's always had nipples.
You
Just suit.
paired the wrong people together. Like,
Yeah, George Clooney in the wrong movie. I don't know what he was doing there. Arnold Schwarzenegger, even more so, was in the wrong movie. So
They
yeah.
had mortgage payments. Didn't you know that?
No, I didn't actually. Someone didn't inform that until just now. But yeah, Arnold was horribly miscast.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
George Clooney was too, because he can be good. Like he's great. in
Oh yeah,
Dusk
he's
Till Dawn.
fine on ER because that's one of the best medical dramas ever made, arguably. But you
Well,
as
hey,
Batman,
brother,
I'm
where
sorry,
art thou?
Georgie boy, but that doesn't cut it in my world.
Yeah, but he makes a pretty good Bruce Wayne. Again, back to the can you beat Bruce Wayne or Batman?
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
You know?
yeah, kind of, but not enough for me to watch 2 hours of it. I'm sorry.
Good
George.
point. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
do it,
it was
Georgie
pretty.
boy.
It was pretty terrible. That was a tragic theater
Yeah,
experience.
you want
for
to
me.
talk about worst comic book movies of all time? That'd probably be at number 2 or number 1 on a lot of people's lists.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin.
I
Yeah.
really
Yeah, that
feel
one.
like Chris O'Donnell got the short end of the stick
Yeah.
because you had to be next to this guy and not only donned in a suit with nipples, but you seriously, like, you
What
know,
about poor Alicia Silverstone? It killed her career.
I
I
know.
feel so bad for her because she was so good in Clueless, man.
But this movie killed her career.
It's so sad.
Well,
I feel bad for
like-
her at times.
Like certain people got catapulted though. Like I think that, you know, like yes, Jim Carrey was a bad choice for the Riddler, but he did do a
He's
lot
my
of other
Jimmy,
stuff
though. He's my
outside of
Jimmy.
it.
Yeah.
And you know, like
I still curious what Robin Williams would have done in that role.
Mm.
Mm.
Would have been a totally different movie, that's for sure.
They would have probably they probably would have had to have fired him because he improvs more than Carey does.
Yeah.
Mm.
I just
If you
feel
want,
like
if you want to see, you know what Robin Williams was like, go into YouTube and find all the outtakes from him doing the genie of
Oh
Aladdin.
my gosh.
You know, they had him
They're on the
record it before
Blu-ray
they.
too.
Yeah, they
okay, I gotta
he
even-
literally just went off and then they went and animated it
For like
on
80
top of
minutes
him.
or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
yeah, and he was known to riff, you know, like crazy. I mean, you know, some of the stuff from Good Morning Vietnam is huge, is all ad libbed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh
So
wow.
I still think you're only as good as the people around you though. Like I think that
Yeah.
if you're good and the source, well, if the stuff you're reading is good and then you're good, then you catapult other people, like you bring other people up.
Mhm.
If everybody sucks, then you know, dear God,
I mean, you know,
you get Batman and Robin.
you
Oh,
talk about
Rising
Jim
tide,
you
right?
talk about Jim Carrey. You know, Batman Forever just turned 25 years young on Tuesday. So
Mm.
Wow.
you know,
I wish people
I
would
feel
stop
old.
posting the picture of the Michael Keaton Batman Forever suit because they were planning to do the third movie with Michael Keaton, and someone keeps posting the picture of what the bat suit looked like if Michael Keaton would have done Batman Forever. And it's hard.
jeez.
I think it depends on what you want to tell. Like, you know, like you can't compare.
Well, we
What
got
you
what we
wanna
got
tell
because of Joel Schumacher.
Is what you should have told.
Two different
was,
filmmakers.
This is a guy, a vigilante that moonlights as a rich,
Billionaire?
like a playboy, because
Yeah.
the real personality of Batman is Batman.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the scorned child, the revenge-seeking vigilante. That is the real the real person.
Yeah.
The mask he puts on is Bruce Wayne when he's so wonderful to everybody and, you know, schmoozing all the people at the benefits and shit like that. That's the mask. That's the person that's his alter ego. So I think that if we started telling people that that's how they should play it, maybe they'd play it correctly.
Well, if you go read Frank Miller's Year One, okay, it talks all about that, about, you know, basically that first year of, you know, when Batman eventually is still trying to be Batman. He hasn't gotten the suit on yet. You know, he's going out there doing the undercover cop trick, you know, whatever, and realizing it ain't gonna work. And then he realizes he needs the mask, and he realizes Bruce Wayne is his mask. You know,
that's what the new film is actually supposed to be loosely based on. So,
Year One.
And
What
I'm
are everyone's thoughts? Whatever his
not
thoughts on the Nolan
100%
trilogy.
sold on Pattinson. I'm sorry. I mean, I think he's a good actor. I don't know.
well, he's got that billionaire pretty boy look that for Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we just got to wait 5 or 10 years until the film comes out. You know, there's a little thing called COVID-19.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so by the time the movie comes out, he'll be 40, and then he can play Dark Knight Returns version. No, I'm kidding. You wait another 10 years, Robbie, and then you'll be able to play Dark Knight Returns that Batfleck tried to do, which I thought he was all right in BVS. You know, Justice League notwithstanding, but BVS. I mean, that warehouse fight, him tearing people's necks to shreds and breaking necks. I mean,
I gotta admit, I liked Affleck as Batman. I thought he did a pretty good job at it.
I really liked his version of it in BVS. I really did.
Yeah.
What are everyone's thoughts on the Nolan trilogy?
Awesome.
I hate Christian Bale, so I don't.
Wow.
Lame.
I'm sorry.
Wow, I love that.
I have an unpopular opinion. I actually think Batman Begins is the best of the three.
No. I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah.
As long as you don't say the third one is the
trilogy, Batman
best.
Begins is still the top of the line. It's the Rolls Royce of that trilogy.
The third one is probably one of the worst movies ever made.
Which one?
Which one?
The
Dark
third
Knight
one. I don't know the name of it, but the third one.
Dark
Knight Rises.
Yeah.
That one. Oh
I'm
my
in the
god.
minority. I really
Poor Tom
like
Hardy.
Dark Knight Rises. I really like Dark Knight Rises.
I think he redeemed himself, though. I think he found other movies that redeemed him.
I ain't worried
Are
about
you
that.
referring to
I'm just
Nolan,
talking
or are you
about the
referring
movie.
to
That was
Bale?
You're talking
one of the
to
worst
No.
movies I've ever seen.
Tom Hardy.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay. All right.
Dude, Tom Hardy can do
Like I
anything.
said, I
love
liked
that
him in
guy.
Dark Knight Rises, but I'll be in the minority. It's okay.
no, I'm about to just blow everyone's mind. This is what I think of the three films: great Christopher Nolan films, terrible Batman films.
I don't know.
To
like
each
it.
their own, Brian.
That's
To
a take.
each their own.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm a
I
big
don't think
defender
they
of
were
that
great
trilogy,
Batman
but
films.
that's all right, man.
Yeah.
I'll let you be in your little corner and
See,
the
problem I had with the success of that trilogy was Warner Brothers and DC Comics decided all the DCU has to look like, you know, the trilogy. You know? So
Yeah.
I can't even. I'm like,
And that's a real Alfred Pennyworth, or is that someone calling themselves Alfred Pennyworth? Because I think Alfred's a fictional character, but okay.
Yeah.
they're on my they show up on watch my my Saturday morning show. So
Oh, that's
Well,
fair enough, fair enough.
that comment actually, Heath Ledger Joker. It's interesting because I remember when Heath Ledger was first cast as the Joker, and all the whiny fanboys were
Yeah,
like,
I
"No,
was freaking out. I was freaking out. I
no,
was
we
like,
can't have
"Get
Heath Ledger
this
as
guy."
I had
Joker."
my doubts.
No,
I had
and-
my
and-
reservations.
He's awesome.
And now then he did that, and now he's like the standard. So that's how I feel about like Robert Pattinson Batman. I mean, everyone's like,
See the
"No,
movie
Robert
and see what
Pattinson,"
happens.
but
watch
No,
everything
look,
I think he's gonna
after
do it.
Twilight.
Mark
he's
Hamill is
great.
still the best Joker.
Fair
Mark
point.
Hamill. Oh, well,
Mark Hamill. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, he
Boy.
terrified me as a child in Mask of the Phantasm when he grabbed Arthur Reeves and he said,
Yep.
"Makes you want to laugh, doesn't it, Arthur?" And it's like, whoa, like that's the devil looking right into your eyes. I'm serious. Like that is literally what the devil would look like looking into my eyes, saying, "Makes you want to laugh, doesn't it, Arthur?" It's like, it's. Whew, man, that is some cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but it's a great movie.
So I'm
No
glad we're
question.
not live because y'all would probably throw stuff at me. I think the
Uh-oh.
best Batman movie ever made, Lego Batman.
You know what?
I don't think it's a really good movie. I just don't think it
I
has
love that
like,
movie.
I really really enjoy that movie. Like, it's hilarious. To me, it's better than the Lego movies. But
Well,
man,
oh, somebody said
There's
somebody
so many in jokes in that thing. It's
Well,
so
yeah.
funny.
one of the
Yeah.
critics on one of the reviews I was reading on that movie said the first part where you see Batman going home alone and doing the microwave, it was such a serious take on the character of Batman. You know, that it's
Yeah.
like, this shouldn't be in a kid's film, you know? This is serious, scary, psychological stuff, you know?
yeah, wearing a bathrobe, cooking up his chicken. Alfredo, take this. It's like, so, all right, and then he walks up to the Batcave and he's like, "All right, password, please. Iron Man sucks." It's like making fun of the MCU.
I'm telling
it's
you.
like, yes.
Best Batman movie ever.
Oh, and what about the number one song that it recorded,
That's
right?
fair. That's fair.
Oh God, help us all.
The Lego Batman movie. That's a movie for you.
Yep. Listen, I like that movie so much. I can't because it was a father-son thing, right? I went to
Oh,
go see it with
absolutely.
because I'd never seen the Lego movies at all. But my son had
Everything
seen
is
them.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I said, hey, Brett,
right.
let's go watch this movie. My son's Brett, and we were in the movie, and I am laughing. And at one point in time, he leans over and says, "Dad, chill." I'm laughing so hard. So I
It's
come
so
home and I
good.
start telling my wife about the movie. I said, "We're going to see it tomorrow." So I take my wife to the movie the next day. And she's literally now she doesn't appreciate exactly the same kind of humor that I do. But there were moments in that movie that she's laughing out loud. I'm like, okay, see, this is the best Batman movie ever made. She still laughs out loud when they're in the prison and Batman goes bam bam bam. I'm sorry. It's just
No.
No. I am not
I
arguing
mean,
with
we're
you
talking
at
about
all.
comic book adaptations. Batman is a comic book character, so why not talk about his whole
Yeah.
smorgasbord of movies that he's had over the course of 50 years?
Hmm.
Jeez.
Yeah, I gotta say they picked the right person to do the voice of Lego Batman.
Oh, Will
Yeah.
Arnett is just. When he shows up in Lego Movie, I'm like, give me more of this Batman.
Oh yeah, that was hysterical. Throws the battering 50 sometimes.
Yeah.
First
wham,
time.
Yeah.
wham, first try.
yeah.
Good. Don't worry about anything, folks. I'm here. Batman? Oh my God, it's Batman. I'm the man. It's just. There's so many good lines in those movies, folks. Look them up on our Friendly Neighborhood YouTube, and you'll die laughing.
Yep.
All right, so let's jump to, I believe it was 2004.
Yes, let's jump to all kinds of movies that I don't know anything about.
Okay.
Yeah, what did happen in 2004? That was so long ago for us young folks
Sin
here
City
on this
was
panel.
2004.
Don't start you on Wicked
I was 24. I don't know what you're talking about.
So was I.
Okay,
I was like, what was I doing? All of the 2000s. Like, what the
I
hell
was still in
I
high
doing?
school in the 2000s, so yeah.
so in 2004 we got A History of Violence.
Oh,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Aragorn, Viggo Mortensen, yeah.
Vigo, yeah.
Yes.
Viggo, yeah.
And it's funny that a lot of people still don't know that that's a graphic novel.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of. I feel like there are a lot of movies that come out that people are like, "What? It's a comic book?" Like,
I agree.
Road
got
to
that deer in the
Perdition, for
headlights
example.
look.
When the Secret Service movies came out, the King
Yep.
of movies, nobody realized
Yeah.
it was a comic book. Or Atomic Blonde, also based on.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that one.
But
Yeah, based on The Coldest City from Oni Press. Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Oh,
think
wow.
that's because, I think we as comic geeks, right? We live in this world and we just assume, everyone knows this. But we forget how small the comic book industry actually is.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah.
it's obviously you can see right what I'm surrounded by, but to me, it's like everything.
I don't
But
want to deal with the muggles.
Outside of these walls, though, people just, they
I
don't
understood
know.
that reference.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
But A History of Violence, it's one of my favorite films. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was actually nominated at the Academy Awards that
I think
year.
it was.
I think it did get some Oscar buzz, yeah.
Is it Best Picture or Best Actor? Or
I think both.
so I can't remember.
Maybe both. Maybe 3 of the 4. I don't know. The Oscars, what is
Like I
that?
said, I don't know what the hell I was doing in the 2000s.
The
Yeah, but what about-
2000s were all blur.
Yeah, but what about the movie that came out 2 years before that got a lot of buzz? The Road to Perdition.
Yeah. I was
Didn't
gonna
even
go-
know that was
on the
a
list,
graphic
too.
novel movie.
Yeah,
No
that's
idea.
Tom Hanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Tom Hanks.
Yes.
The Tom Hanks. Yes, sir.
That's
Very good
Mr.
movie.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, America's dad, as some people call him. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when they're talking about all these celebrities and when people are digging into their past or whatever, and like someone said that when they try to dig into Tom Hanks and they find something that their world is going to end, and it's like, oh,
Cancel.
No, you want to destroy somebody? Show them bosom buddies of the early days of Tom Hanks, and they'll be horrified.
No, but we forgive him for all that. Like, we forgive him for all of that because we're like, but
I will not forgive him for Bachelor Party and what's the home he did with Shelley Long?
Oh my God. Wow, Shelley
Money
Long.
Pit.
That's a Cheers throwback.
Oh, Money
Well, he
Pit,
was in a
yeah.
movie called Money Pit.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I,
right.
I
That's right.
still love Prison Buddies, so you're gonna have whatever.
It was Money Pit was a remake of Mr. Badlerine Builds His Dream House, Cary Grant film.
Jeez.
I just.
Oh, fascinating history buffs we have on this panel.
Oh, I'm a huge fan because it had Myrna Loy in it. The Mr. Badlerine Builds It, and I love Myrna Loy.
I do too.
Oh, I see.
The Thin Man.
Oh,
Love
oh,
those movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Get her if you can get her autobiography, it's a good read.
Really? Cool.
Yeah.
So Holly had mentioned that Atomic Blonde, which recently
I gotta go
came
look that
out.
up now. Thanks, Holly.
But we just watched it, and aside from the fact that I love Charlize Theron, I think that Theron, whatever, the blonde lady.
Theron, yeah.
I mean, she is freaking amazing in pretty much everything that she plays. But I didn't know it was based on. I should have known, just based on. I should have known, but I thought that the movie was really. I don't. It's not. Well, it wasn't really fun, but
The music was dynamite.
the music was awesome, and and she's amazing. So
And I mean, and the story that they were telling, I mean, the whole like 80s at that time period, I mean, we had everything going on with the Wall and Ronald Reagan and
The actor? No, I'm kidding. Sorry, that's another movie reference that no one caught, but that's all right.
Yeah. No, I said that. That's a Back to the Future. Good one.
but
Yes, someone caught it. Thank you. All right, I'm not alone.
apparently there's a movement.
although I did understand the reference to the reference that you made just a few minutes ago. That was
Oh,
Castiel
thank you.
reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
thank you,
did catch that
appreciate
one.
it. All right.
So there's actually a movement that people want to see Atomic Blonde crossover with John Wick. I think
Oh,
that
God,
was
John
no.
Wick would still win, but
No, that would be horrible.
Why do we have to like stop messing with good shit? Like, don't. You don't have to remake it.
But
Just
Atomic,
keep it the way it
but
was.
Charlene
It was
Theron's
good,
character,
well.
if you did a crossover, Charlene's character would be in her 60s or even her 70s if you crossed over. Because didn't Atomic Blonde take place in the 80s?
Yeah.
Maybe.
yeah.
Okay,
And we're waiting
Tom.
another 5 or 6 years for John Wick 4 to come out. Thanks, COVID-19.
So I'm looking up and down this list here. There's like some balls to the walls type stuff on here, like Wanted.
Just did a
yeah.
rewatch of that. That's a good movie.
I've actually never seen that
good
one. I read the
revenge
book.
movie.
I read the book, did not see the movie.
Yeah, the movie had
I like
Chris
the movie. I
Pratt
can't comment
and
on the book, but I like the movie.
McAvoy and
Yeah, young Professor Xavier. Yeah,
What's her
What's
name?
the one that you don't
Angelina
like.
Jolie,
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I don't want to watch
aka
it.
OG Tomb Raider.
Yep.
Sorry. Unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
I hate Angelina Jolie.
But Wanted showed up
wow.
and then disappeared fairly quickly. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
I know
sad because
people
Wanted's a
wanted
darn
it,
good movie.
But I think it's too late.
But did Wanted get lost in the shuffle of that year?
Yeah,
Like-
Yeah, it was
2008.
2008. It was MCU. It was Dark Knight. Yeah.
You know, I think that
It was good enough that the MythBusters tried to curve a bullet.
Yes.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, you
That's,
can't curve a
that's
bullet.
popularity right there. The Mythbusters do it.
You can't
But
curve
you-
a bullet. They proved you can't curve a bullet.
But you can do it in the movies because it's called movie magic, kids.
That's right.
Right.
CGI is your friend.
Movie magic.
Now you talk about radical departures from the source material. Wanted is very different from the graphic
yeah.
novel
Oh, very
Yeah.
much from what I've heard.
because the graphic novel is all about the villains won, and they've basically changed reality, so there are no superheroes. And the Wanted movie is basically they're just assassins that curve bullets.
What's funny?
Fraternity of assassins.
What's
Yeah.
funny in the book, okay, and you guys are going to love this, is that in the book they talk about after they had changed everything in 1984, which was when Watchmen came out. That's why they chose that time frame. Was they talked about the scariest man alive was a B rated movie actor now. And that's who they were talking about, Batman, and how they had talked about meeting the guy who was really Superman, but he's also an actor. Yeah. Yeah, how they changed reality, and it was very funny, those subtle references in the book. You know.
Yes, I should.
So,
So you're telling me I should try it?
I don't know.
But now all I can see is Angelina Jolie. So I think
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Watch the movie and enjoy it. That's all you gotta do. It's very simple. It's so simple.
there are just
The
some
movie
things
is
you can't
good.
get over. I just can't. I don't. She
Oh,
takes
No, I get
Maleficent
it.
for me
I get
too.
it.
I don't like her so much that I didn't like Maleficent. And
well,
Maleficent, was
Maleficent
good.
is one of the worst movies in Disney cinematic history. Let's be honest, but
Oh
I
no,
just-
no,
But the
No,
character,
Ryan,
she ruined the character for me.
Ryan, you have never seen The Devil and Max Devlin or Condor Man.
that's true. I have not heard of
Condor
or
Man. Oh
seen
God,
those
I almost
titles.
forgot that movie existed.
There you go.
But hey, I saw
Condor
Maleficent
Man's so
both of
bad.
those.
theater.
Condor
It's pretty
Man is
bad.
so bad, it's fun. Okay.
Oh,
And the Devil and Max Devlin, it's Bill Cosby as the devil.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. Okay.
yeah.
I never heard of these properties,
The
but
only
So you're
reason
saying-
You
I
weren't
wanted to
around
put
in the
that
1970s.
no, I was not. Unfortunately,
Okay.
I don't have a DeLorean yet where I can go back in time yet. So
Oh yeah, these are some pretty bad stuff. Go look at the 70s stuff from Disney. Trust me, Maleficent is Shakespeare compared to some of that stuff. Okay,
fair enough. Even though Maleficent was on my worst of that year list, but that's fine.
you haven't suffered yet, my friend.
Well, I've seen some bad movies, but I'll take
See?
your word for
What
it.
I'm telling you is that Maleficent might have just been because it was Angelina Jolie.
No, the movie was just bad in general. It doesn't matter who you got to play the part. The movie was bad with a capital B, so
Yeah.
it's okay.
He's my
Hey, you know what?
favorite Disney villain, but I couldn't get behind it.
It's okay. Every studio has bad days at the office. That's just the way business is.
Yep.
Before I bring up the next thing here, hey Kevin, I had talked to you about your Hot Toys collection. Do you have a Hot
Yeah.
Toy near you that you could show off?
Well, I have a few with me.
Which reminds me, I
Just
need
like,
to start collecting Hot Toys because they look so good.
What's a hot toy?
Yeah.
So I'll bring out.
No, seriously, I mean,
A very large
I'm going to bring out Spider-Man
Okay.
here
replica.
okay.
from
Very much.
Infinity War.
Tom Holland.
My money
Sorry,
goes to a
you can-
7-year-old, so I don't get to enjoy
you can
cool
switch
toys
out
like
his-
this.
You can switch out his head and put the mask on.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
I gotta
most
get one.
Hot Toys have switchable.
I hear Hot Toys
Yeah.
are really, really good stuff. I got to get myself one
Yep.
of them these days.
Wow.
I have a ton of them. And then I also have Iron Man as well from Infinity
Oh,
War.
jeez. Wow.
Wow.
Look how detailed that is, folks.
Yeah,
Hot
I
Toys-
remember my days in the comic shop. We always get calls about Hot Toys. Do you carry Hot Toys? Do you carry Hot Toys? Like,
I know.
Hot
Yeah,
I'll
Toys
reach
is
out and see where I can
Japan,
get it.
right?
Mhm.
Sorry?
Hot Toys is based out of Japan, and they sell here in the States through Sideshow. Is that right? I think.
I think they
Uh,
do sell through Sideshow, but
Yeah, I think they're Hong Kong based.
Hong Kong.
So China, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like
Um,
I'm looking at it right now online. Yeah.
Yeah, Sideshow's got some really good stuff. One of them I want to get pretty
Yeah.
soon is the John Wick one.
Yeah, and the
Oh, it's a
sculpts
great
are
figure.
all- the sculpts, like they actually look like the actors. That's how detailed they are.
Oh, Batman toppled
Man
over.
overboard.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
So I've got
Nice.
a little Ben Affleck there as well.
As Heath Ledger says, now there's a Batman.
Yeah.
There you go. See? I couldn't help it,
Fell
guys.
off
I
the
couldn't
base.
help it. Jeez.
So-
I got to get my hands on one of these John Wick's Hot Toys or Sideshows, man. This is killing me.
Yeah, I have the John Wick. It's a great figure. So many little things, and it has like a ton of accessories. So You get a packet of
Hashtag
gold
jealous.
coins and
Yeah, that's the great thing about Hot Toys. They come with a whole bunch of different things.
And I'm a big John Wick fan, so I need to get my.
I
gotta,
never
like,
would have noticed.
Like Gordon says in Batman Begins. Oh, I gotta get me one of those.
So this is
That's very true, Willow. That's very
This
true.
is what I'm
These Hot
thinking.
Toys cost a few arms and a few legs. So
Yeah.
They're
what
really
is this funny thing you speak of?
it's very true.
No, I work
Sideshow.
comic books. There's no money in comic books.
No, there isn't. With Sideshow
No.
collectibles, there's payment plans.
That's why I
so-
teach.
Okay, I teach and I still don't have money. So 80 days in quarantine with my children, and $1,600 in groceries just to feed them for the time we've not been in school.
I'm unemployed, so you know.
Oh, sorry.
I hope the gift gods will bless you with a Hot Toy or Sideshow collectible one day. That's all I can say.
I have.
Or
some.
that guy, if he
Not
wants
one
to buy
that I
one for
want.
you, you know, he's more than welcome to it.
All right,
Start
so let's,
passing the hat.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about the wife's getting mad about whatever that you're collected. Like, I'm okay with him collecting, but I don't think you should have to join a group to deal with it. And it's not even comic books. Like, we have 1 million comic books, and that's not even what bothers me. What bothers me is the 10,000 DVD or Blu-rays we have, and the probably 600 I feel that's probably more than what we have, but the pop figures we have.
Those Funko Pops can take up a lot of space, people.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
why
telling
I
you.
didn't get into those.
Yeah, I only have 3 of them.
I have 4,
I
but
got
yeah.
into them for a little bit, and then I realized they're taking up too much space in the man cave / house, so had to sell some of them, which I'm in the process of doing.
I call them the modern day Beanie Baby.
Oh
That's
man.
exactly what I call them. I was like, when is the bubble gonna burst? When
Yeah.
are people gonna stop with the pop vinyls? But it hasn't stopped yet.
I mean,
Yeah.
to my left here is
Go on
my
forever.
entire wall of DVDs. You know,
There you go.
and I'm mad at the Criterion collection to showing up. You know, because now the really good stuff is appearing. You know,
Oh, I like Criterion stuff.
Well,
yeah.
I have my fair share of Blu-rays from them.
yeah, Criterion, Shout / Scream Factory, and Arrow
Shout
Video.
Factory.
Really great stuff.
Screen
Yeah,
Factory.
8 years ago,
We have 10,000.
That's
8
a
years.
plethora right there, if I can
Yeah.
use a very big technical word.
You would
Yeah,
hate my apartment so much. I have so much crap.
Holly, I want to come visit your place. I'm already just from what's behind you. I'm already
Yeah.
liking it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I've got
intrigued,
my
Holly.
bookshelves over here, like so many books. And then I got
Nice.
more bookshelves in the living room.
I got a
Wow.
12 by 14 shed that's got my comics, my paperbacks, and everything else collectible. And then the basement's filled up too. See, because you know, I also have my wall of DVDs.
Oh, that's a
Nice.
good one.
Jeez. Yeah, one of these days we
Okay.
need to do a Reels and Heels version of Cribs, Brian. Show off the
Nice.
nerd collection, brother.
You know,
So we're gonna hop into what I think is a film that's liked by a lot of people, and I know it's loved in the comic book world, and that's Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Mm.
I didn't know it was a comic.
it's several comics.
Not a surprise.
And I'm a teacher. How did I not know that was a comic?
You know, I gotta admit, the thing I liked about the movie was here's this kid, right? He's the only person in the world to beat up both Superman and Captain America. You know?
Before their time.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what I'm like, wait a minute.
Chris
No,
Evans and you know.
Yeah, I got it. I got the reference. Took me a minute, but yeah.
So
You have to walk
Holly,
with me here. So
oh,
I've
There
got
you
the
go.
series there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
Oh.
the colored version. Yeah.
Mm.
so is
It's,
this a good adaptation in your guys' eyes?
I haven't actually seen the film. I
Neither have I.
gotta.
I love Edgar Wright, so I think it's very well done.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I think it's faithful. To steal from Kevin from earlier, I think it's faithful to the spirit. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think though it probably would have been better as like a mini series on TV, you know, like 2 or 3
Yeah.
films. But for what they did with it, I think it was fine. You know, there are a lot of jokes in there that, as an older guy, it took a minute for me to catch on some of it. Some of the video game references, you know, I didn't know some of those video games, but I watched it a few times. I picked it up eventually.
Yeah, I know it's very popular. Like a lot of my friends on Facebook and even on Twitter, whenever I visit Twitter, they're always talking about Scott Pilgrim's World and that they want another one.
Still?
Oh yeah,
They're still talking about it?
Yeah, they're still talking about it.
Wow.
It just showed up on my radar as a comic book because someone in the comics in the classroom circuit was talking about how it's a good book to have in your classroom. And I was like, that blew my mind. Mind blown.
The music in that movie was pretty good too. I really enjoyed the music. So
yeah, and Holly, just to catch up here, Nicole does comics in the classroom, and she goes to panels at cons and talks about it, and usually has a round table like this of comic artists, writers, and other educators. Roland Mann's a fan of what she's doing, and Kevin, of course, always has her at MegaCon in Orlando.
If we ever get to go back to con.
Yeah.
Once again, we have COVID-19 to thank for that. So
just think of all the money you're saving by not going to these cons.
The 2-day show, October, right?
I don't know.
Kevin, are you still there?
Yeah, I faded in and out there. Sorry. Well, our 2020 show is done. It's now 2021, but we are doing a smaller version in the fall called Limited Edition, which will be on Halloween weekend. Provided it's safe to do it.
Yeah.
Of course, that's
everybody
still
would
up
get
in the
their
air.
shit together and flatten the damn curve and not screw up my Halloween this year.
Yeah, my daughter's already talking about Halloween, so
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas is going to be a nightmare.
It's always a nightmare.
Isn't it though?
You work in retail at any point in your life.
Oh, I have. I've done Christmas on retail. It was it's why I drink now.
When you have children, Christmas is a nightmare.
So yeah, go ahead and talk about that one.
I love which one did you point at? 'Cause there's like 3 of them. I don't know.
28.
Okay. Why do I have to talk about it?
What page are we on?
I
didn't get a list.
Yeah, I didn't get a list either.
Where's
I
the
think
script,
you know what? I
Ryan?
think we should send the link. You should send the list out to everybody and be like,
Oh,
"Here's
sure.
the
The
list."
show's almost over.
Well,
That's not a list. It's not your list. So
He waits until the third act of this presentation to show us this. Like, come on.
Oh, by the way, there's a list.
He handed me the list, and I'm like, "What the hell do you want me to do with that?" Like, I don't even know what half of them are. But before you talk about that, before you go on to this, let's talk about because I think that's going to be a bigger. More people are going to probably talk about that.
Okay.
But to talk about since we're talking about comics in the classroom, and because a lot of I think it's sorry. So on the list, he has Ghost World on here. And I have only read portions of the comic and I haven't seen the whole film, but I can't really speak to that, but I know that that's been in a lot of I think it's been in Scholastic.
That didn't sound good.
Sounded like there was an accident in the kitchen on aisle 3.
Yeah.
Is it aisle 5?
Was that the dog or was that the kids?
The kid.
Oh boy.
This is our 950 square foot house where it's literally 10 feet from everywhere. So.
But yeah, on your panel, a lot of people do mention Ghost World.
They talk about Ghost World, and I just wanted to know if that was a decent adaptation because I don't know anything really about that movie.
I know it was a critic darling when it came out, and it was on a limited release. Never saw it, but the critics just couldn't stop saying, stop falling all over themselves about it. But it didn't get a lot of eyeballs.
I've never seen it.
Never seen it myself or read the book.
I
Yeah,
guess that's on my
I
list.
think the reason people bring up Ghost World in the context of Classroom is because it's a Daniel Clowes comic, and he's pretty well known for doing what they call literary comics. Basically, something things that don't have superheroes in them, which I think is this stupid distinction, but
literary comics. What's that?
She's right. Non-superheroes. Yeah.
The people who won't read Batman, but they'll pick up something that's a graphic novel that's about slice of life.
Yeah. Graphic novel.
Graphic novel.
Yeah, that's just. But yeah, I'm not going to rant. I'm not going to rant. I'm not.
No, ran away.
No, I want to see that.
That sounds exactly like what I would say. Preach.
Yeah, come on.
It's just a snobbish way to
Yes.
make them
I
more.
work with so many of those people. Preach, please.
Oh dear. Oh,
And I was an English major, so I am one of those snobs. But like, yeah, I just those kinds of books that are so obviously catered towards those people who only read graphic novels. I can't get behind it. I really can't.
And because we're going there, one of my favorite things to do is when these people are like, yes, I don't read comic books, I read graphic novels. And then I'm like, oh, so tell me something that you read. Well, like Watchmen, for instance. I did. Oh, did you know that it was a comic book before it was a graphic novel? What do you mean? I'm like, no, it was 12 issues. I've got them all. Do you want to see them? No. Yeah. Sorry.
read everything, folks. Read
Okay,
everything.
granted, there can be a distinction between like an original graphic novel and a collected trade.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still
Yeah,
it's
but the
still a
snobs
word that
don't
needs.
know that.
No, they don't. And that's the thing. It's like,
It's still a word that needs to die. I think we should just call it in comics.
I mean, a graphic novel
Right.
is pretty much a comic, just has more pages.
yeah,
No.
Yeah.
it's a long comic book.
Yes.
But if I say it's a graphic novel, people are like, oh, really?
Yeah. Oh,
And I say, oh, it's a comic book. They'll go,
it's
Why
a
would we do
term
that?
that the literary
Yeah,
snobs
exactly.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want a really long graphic
This
novel,
is
pick up
Mayhem.
an omnibus.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, the Bone
Right.
Omnibus is
I
one
have
of the
Bone- I have
best
the Bone
ones.
Omnibus.
Mhm.
One of these days, I hope to own an actual omnibus because right now all I have are trades and back issues, which aren't a bad thing. They're fantastic things. I love to read each and every
Omnibuses
time.
are too big for me. Like I can't get into like breaking the spine of the book.
Yeah,
so I
that's
can
my
read.
thing. If I grab an omnibus,
just-
it's so intimidating to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, the Bone Omnibus is probably one of the best ones out there. You got
Is it now?
1,300
I have it
pages, something like
in the
that.
garage.
Fantastic stuff.
One of these days, I'll buy an omnibus for my collection.
Mhm.
Hey,
No.
Roland, I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Now, I'm a huge fan of your Cat and Mouse series.
Thank you.
Um,
An omnibus.
oh, wow, that's beautiful.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh wow, that's gorgeous.
That is.
That's
Yeah,
Wonder
it-
Woman. That's Wonder Woman. for
Basically, if it falls on your foot, you're going to the hospital. Okay.
you. I will keep that
Oh,
in mind
Kevin
the next
says,
time I go to my store.
I'll see
and
you're
pick
a
up-
Wonder
And
Woman
grab
and
it.
up you an
And
Infinity
then
Gauntlet.
slam you with an infinity gauntlet there. I actually have a podium that I have to put them on.
Yeah.
Oh, a podium.
Wow.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
very.
I have a
that's
little
very-
podium I put it on.
Yeah,
That's
that's
very stylish of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Roland, like I said, I love Cat and Mouse,
Thank you.
and I could totally see it as a series. Is that something that you would be open to option it to be adapted as a series?
Absolutely. It was optioned. It was optioned in the early '90s at the same time as my dear friend Lowell Cunningham. Do any of you know who Lowell Cunningham is?
Yes, I do. I've met Lowell.
Great guy, and a terrible hermit right now, but Lowell is the guy who created Men in Black, right? So Lowell and I shared option stories when they were both optioned at the same time, and of course his went on to do what we know, but Cat and Mouse went nowhere. And so yeah, absolutely, I think it would make I mean, obviously I'm biased because I'm attached to it, right? But I think it would be great in a serialized format.
I was in the hallway when Lowell Cunningham met the guy who was writing MIB2 for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that same guy wrote Galaxy Quest.
Really?
Yeah. So there were
explains a lot.
7 of us. There were 7 of us in the hallway talking to him, and Lowell comes up and says, "Oh, I want to thank you for writing the sequel to my story." And he goes, and the screenwriter took a second before he realized who Lowell was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, nobody knows who comic book writer.
Yeah.
Nobody
But
cares.
it was hysterical. You know, they at which
Lowell's
point
from Tennessee, by the way,
Yeah.
Holly.
at which
Oh
point
yeah.
Yep.
at which point both of them completely ignored all of us fanboys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go your question though. So one of the things, and I still have it. I can show all of it to you. One of the things I did not like about it was optioned in the '90s. It was optioned by Trilogy Entertainment, which was Gail Ann Hurd's company, the same company that did Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner. Okay, and of course, this is early '90s, so it's before the big success of the comic book movies, right? And so one of the things they did is they went in there and they just changed everything, okay? And I had serious issues with a lot of it. I'm going to tell you the biggest change so you guys can appreciate exactly the kind of things I had to deal with. So I'm not going to go into all the story, but Cat and Mouse is set in New Orleans, right? I'm from Mississippi. New Orleans was the coolest town, city next to me. Had a character.
Here, and I'll open it for you.
And one of the things they did in the film treatment of it is that they had all these underground caverns in New Orleans. Now, if you know anything about New Orleans, I see Holly's. Yeah, and I'm like, wait, no, you can't do that. I'm like, you can't put underground tunnels throughout all of New Orleans. And they're like, well, why not? I'm like, because it's below sea level. And why do you think all the people are buried above the ground? You can't bury people because they pop back up. So they bury them above the ground. Their response, well, this is a comic book adaptation. I'm like, no, that's the wrong answer. That's the wrong answer. And yeah, so that's just one example. There was a lot of it throughout their entire treatment of the comic. They just changed so many things that, as the creator of it, people ask me, would you have rather had it made as a bad adaptation? And I'll give you my honest answers. I don't really know. I don't know if I would have rather seen it be made terribly, or if I'm thankful that it wasn't made because I know how terrible it would have been, or at least from my perspective, because everything was not recognizable as the Cat and Mouse comic. It wouldn't have been recognizable on screen. So,
for those that don't know much about Cat and Mouse, what is your pitch, your elevator pitch?
So my elevator for the second volume here, the elevator pitch for the new one is it's a story of a guy who gets a telephone call from his ex-fiance. She says, "Hey, my kid sister ran away. Would you go get her?" It's his ex-fiance, so he doesn't really want to do it, but he's studied to be a police officer. So he says, "Let me see what I can do." So he goes to New Orleans, only to find out she's been caught up in a human trafficking ring. So he has to figure out how to get her out of the human trafficking ring and get her home. And yes, there are ninjas involved.
Okay, you can't go wrong if you got ninjas.
Yeah.
Ninjas are one of those things that make everything better, kind of like dinosaurs. They sort of add dinosaurs, and it instantly becomes awesome.
You can't see let's see, I can do this. That's Cat and Mouse right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That's my
That
convention
is-
banner.
That is pretty cool looking.
Yeah, Kevin, I think you would dig this book. You totally need to read it.
Mhm.
I gotta go find
I think
it.
I think I did.
Drop me a
Actually.
message. I'll send you all a PDF.
But I think,
Oh.
don't you
Send
think
me
though,
one right
movie
now.
adaptations have to be relevant to what's going on in the time? So like, since maybe in the 90s they weren't really on the human trafficking bandwagon like they are now. Like, I think it wasn't. I didn't hear about it. I mean, I was
I'm not
a kid.
convinced
I
they are
never heard
now.
about it. But maybe they weren't bandwagon. Maybe that was a bad thing to say, but like that it wasn't relevant in the 90s for them to really make setting and character and all of that important. So then if it was pitched again now in 2004, when we are talking more about human trafficking, do you think it would catch on?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not. I hear what you're saying. I'm still not convinced that the world at large or the public at large is concerned about human trafficking like it's a concern of mine. I'm just not convinced that. You might be right, but I am unconvinced. I do feel better about things like technology and the things that they can do on the screen now, that they can capture a lot of these things that I was not convinced they could capture in the 90s. Obviously, as the writer of it, I am convinced it's an important topic that we should all be aware of. As to whether anybody else thinks it is or not, I can't answer that. I don't know that.
I'm still holding out.
I don't know.
hope.
I'm the teacher
like-
on the panel. I'm just always thinking about how people think. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, the whole thing is it's set in New Orleans, and we're gonna have them underground. No,
Yeah.
like historically and geographically, if you don't know that about New Orleans, you deserve to be smacked upside the head. And you don't deserve to do it anyway.
Got to keep in mind, I was dealing with Hollywood in the early 90s, so
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of cocaine flowing around in the early 90s in Hollywood, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. No
Oh
kidding.
boy.
Yeah, no kidding.
And all the smart people gone.
Listen, every time you see Boston on the screen, I cringe, okay? So, I feel your pain, Roland.
Yeah, see, and you say Boston, and I immediately think of the band, right? Sorry, it just is.
More than a
Smoking.
feeling.
There you go. Okay, fine. I can live with that. That's cool.
I grew up listening to Boston's music, so
Yep.
that's some good songs there by those guys.
But we also have Aerosmith up here too. So
Absolutely, the Bad Boys.
That's
That's
very
right.
there you
true.
go.
Dream
I've
on,
seen,
man.
I've
Dream
seen
on,
them live about
absolutely.
6 times.
Did you know Jay Giles is from a few miles from me?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he used to come to the local garage I used to work at.
Was it Love Stinks or Love Hurts? One of those.
Oh boy.
Freeze frame.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But did he also did one of the Love Hurts or Love Stinks one, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What stinks?
Wow.
Yeah. But
I think
he
maybe
passed recently. So,
Nazareth did Love Hurts.
yeah. Anyway. But
So-
what I'm saying is I feel your pain when you talk about stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Brian. Did I answer your question?
I think so. I mean, you're open to it. You just want it to be done
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I am open to it, but I think I go back to the idea from earlier is that I want to make sure that whoever decides that they want to do it wants to be faithful to the spirit of the book. I don't want underground caverns all over New Orleans. I just
So let's.
As a teacher, I don't either because that's what you're saying.
yeah.
So let's move on to something that is very recent and is receiving a second season very soon, and that's Amazon's The Boys.
Mm.
Ah.
Not
Derek.
soon enough, right?
I have not seen the TV show.
I was
Neither.
disturbed when I read the book, so I didn't want to watch the movie or the show.
The series.
yeah,
Yeah.
the comic is classic Garth Ennis. Like, how can I disturb people the most?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
when I kind of went, yeah, I don't need to,
Well, this is one of those.
But
rare-
at the same
rare-
time, I love Carl Urban, so I may end up watching
KK
it.
Judge Dredd.
Well, yeah, having
and
met
this is one of
Carl.
those rare instances for me that I've actually seen the TV show, but I haven't actually read the comic. It's usually the
I
other
haven't
way
read
around
the
for me.
comic, and now I'm scared. Actually, like
I only see Carl Urban as Dredd. That's all I see him as.
I'm a Star Trek geek, so
Wait, he was in Star Trek, wasn't he?
Yes, he
Yeah,
was.
he was
Captain
Bones. He was
McCoy.
Bones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
He's also
Yeah, he was good in that too, but he's
Lord of
just
the
so
Rings
good
is what
as
I was
Dredd.
associating with.
Yes,
And
now
Dune.
here's one. He
was
was
in Dune.
Cupid. He was Cupid in Xena and Hercules.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, Carl had to pay the bills sometime.
Yeah, well, you get your breaks. You get your breaks somewhere.
Yeah, you got to
Mhm.
get those paychecks, man.
Got to get your union card somehow.
well, now it's really hard to
Urban.
talk about it being an adaptation if nobody's really seen the adapt or
Well, I haven't issues with Amazon in general.
I've never seen The Boys, so I can't comment nor speculate. I just
so you-
know the
you have
actors that are in
issues
it,
with
but I
their-
haven't seen the
Their adaptations or
No, with their entire existence.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. We got an Amazon
I
hater
was
in
sitting
the
there thinking,
house?
wait a minute,
Okay.
what?
If we're gonna talk superheroes and adaptations, there's another one that Amazon did with a pseudo superhero, and that's the Tick.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot that was even a thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it started
Yeah.
up here, and he got his start way up here.
I
Yeah.
remember that as an animated series back in the 90s on Fox Kids.
I've seen the animated and the 2 live actions, and I've got the books when they came out. The animated
books.
series was the best.
Really? No kidding.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I think
The animated
show,
series
but
was
not the
hilarious.
animated series.
it was.
It had its moments when I was growing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the case where the different forms of humor are lost on me.
Spoon.
No.
Yeah.
He started off. God, I can't even think of his name now. He's a producer in Hollywood now, but he started it off as an art school project up here in Mass Art.
Ben Edlund.
Ben Edlund,
Yeah,
yeah.
Ben. There you go. And then I walked past him at a couple of comic book shows up here in New England when he was peddling the Tick because it was independent press, and I walked right by him. Could have had original art, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I
Yeah.
just got burned on the black and whites, you know.
Oh.
Oh,
So I was not interested in any of the black and whites, and who know? And look where he went.
Yeah.
how
You
dare
know?
you?
Oh,
How dare
man.
you? Black
I
and white
know,
is
it was
superior.
Could have had
Right.
some early golden tickets.
I'm a
Ollie-
fan of black and
Ollie,
white. Are you kidding me?
the turtles started up here. The turtles started up here in Hampton Beach area. Okay.
Mhm.
Then you had basically for the next 3.5 to 4 years, a million gazillion ripoffs.
Right.
And those of us that were young and stupid thought we were going to invest and resell and make lots of
Yeah.
money off of them, and lost
The,
a lot of money off of them.
The radioactive black belt hamsters.
Yeah, that's right.
The
Geriatric
great.
jujitsu gerbils.
Yes, I
Yes.
know about that one. My favorite though was Boris the Bear.
Oh, I love Boris the
Oh,
Bear.
yeah.
Yeah.
Boris the Bear who killed all the black and whites.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
quite fond of Nat Rat.
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
How about Miami Mice?
Yeah, I've got that one.
Nice, yeah.
I don't know. I just have such fun. I just love old, like, crappy quality black and white, like newsprint, late
Ollie-
80s, early 90s crap.
And
Come up
they
to
are the
my
gift.
house. I will give you
Yeah.
the entire boxes of them.
You love the
I'll
boxes,
take 'em.
don't you, Howard?
There's so
Sorry?
many.
You love the 50-cent boxes, don't you?
I do.
I do too. Listen,
Looks like
I
we're gonna
we
take a
can,
field trip to Jerome's house.
we can talk
Yeah.
about how we can throw all kinds of shade at the turtles if you want to, but I still credit turtles for my being able to break into the industry
Oh, absolutely.
because
Hey, I'm not throwing shade at the turtles.
they,
Dude, I
I've got a Donatello statue on my dresser right over there.
I'm not throwing shade. I'm throwing shade at the guys who thought they were going to make millions of dollars.
Gotcha. Came
Like
back with
myself,
that, yeah.
trying to repedal stuff. That's where I'm at.
Well, there was certainly a boom in that period, and I look to the Turtles. I'm not a huge Turtles fan. I'm not a hater, but I'm not a huge Turtles fan. But I look at that and say, thank you, Turtles, for what you did and created this and allowed me then to come in and work in the industry.
It revitalized a lot of the industry, and you got a lot of new talent that came out because of it.
I mean,
Without self-publishing, a lot of talent that we have today wouldn't be here. Yeah,
Exactly.
Ollie, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. I was just going to talk about, you were talking about like ripoffs and stuff. I think the early 90s was a worse time for people buying crap that ended up being worthless. Like the number of calls that you get in the comic shop when you work at one is like, I got Spawn #1.
Yeah.
What can I do with
so
this?
does 5 million other people.
I've got all 13 covers of Gen 13. How much are they
Gen
worth?
13. God.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And then there was like Wildcats and
Yep.
Youngblood.
Brigade. And,
Yeah.
I
Anything
think
Rob Liefeld created.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yes.
I think we're concentrating on Image Comics here.
Well, and that's crazy because now Image puts out really quality shit, but like all of their early 90s superhero stints were mostly garbage.
But
Yep.
man, they were
Wow.
rock stars though.
Oh yeah, they were.
Yeah,
They made
yeah.
so much money.
Yeah, but a number of us
Just-
that were at shows were kind of looking, going, "Why?
Yeah.
Like, why are you guys so popular?"
I was at Malibu when the Image stuff was channeled through the company.
Yeah.
When they first jumped ship, they were at Malibu, and then Malibu was just basically the record keepers until they got their house in order. and then when they were able to hire their staff, then they just went and did their own thing. So I saw so many image books coming through those doors. It was nuts.
Yeah.
Speaking of image, let's jump into this real quick. The Walking Dead.
Hmm.
Huge on TV. I mean, I know.
Yeah, I'm
there's
done with
people,
them.
It was big for 2 minutes and then it fizzled out towards the end.
I watched
From what
the
I've
first
been
two
told,
seasons
I've never
and I
watched
really
the show,
enjoyed
but
them.
that's what I've been told.
I watched the first 2 seasons and I really enjoyed them. But at the same, along the same lines, I read the first 25 issues, and as soon as Rick stated the metaphor out loud, I was done.
Yeah.
We are the Walking Dead. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are. Congratulations.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm done now. I don't need to read anymore.
So.
Well, I mean, if you read The Walking Dead, past the 25, then as they go further along, they go into the point where they've got to start thinking about rebuilding civilization. Okay, because you can't keep trying to kill each other till nobody's left. It just doesn't work that way. But the show just can't seem to figure that out yet. At some point, you got to stop having all these bad guys around and eventually go, look, we're going to rebuild things here. We're going to take care of the zombies. We're going to rebuild things, and that's what you got to do. And they can't seem to figure that out in the show.
Talk about a comic that does perfectly well in black and white.
Give me some paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what episode was it that I said? Well, they are the Walking Dead. Was that like after they went to the thing? I don't know. Like I watched up until Judith was born, and I was having my own children at that point, and I'm just like, can't do it. Can't live in the zombie apocalypse and have a baby. Nope, not gonna happen. Like there were real life things that kept me from watching it. So I know he kept watching it, and I never read the book. So having him stated the metaphor, and I'm like, but they are the Walking Dead. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah. That's how I felt
said
about
it
it.
out loud when I was watching them. I'm like, okay, well, you can deal with zombies, but if everybody has it, how do you deal with zombies? Like, you're always going to deal with zombies. So it's going to be part of your life. So maybe they just keep on because that would eventually be the end of the show and nobody wants the show to end. I mean,
Actually, I lied. I started watching again when Jeffrey Dean Morgan joined the cast because
Negan.
I would watch him recite the alphabet backwards.
Well, he is a good actor. I'll give him that.
For me.
So tell us what you really think of him.
That's a
Love that guy.
non-issue, but yeah.
So we know that Holly's not a fan of Amazon. What about Netflix? As they have two. They have Lock and Key and Umbrella Academy.
And October Faction as well from IDW. Just
and they're developing a whole bunch of Mark Miller properties too, right? So
yeah, Mark Millar.
Mark Millar is like the king of adaptation in general.
Yeah, he's got like a 10, 20-year contract with Netflix or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but are you guys familiar with Umbrella Academy? I mean, do you like it?
I love the comic book. I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan of the comic. I haven't watched the show.
I liked both. The comic was good, and the show's great.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about Lock and Key? I've heard mixed things about it.
I didn't read the comic, but I enjoyed the Netflix series.
I'm in the same boat. I didn't read the comic, but I did like the show. I thought it was a fun show for kids.
I mean, I think with Lock and Key, it was like a labor of love. Eventually, like it took so long to get that to the big screen. I remember when it was first optioned back when
Okay,
like,
so
over a decade ago. So
if we're talking, Netflix adaptations of comic books, what do you guys think of Sabrina?
I have not
I
watched
like it.
I love Sabrina.
I remember her when she was a teenage witch, and hold on a second. She was a teenage witch with a talking cat, and then she explained it all. Hint, hint. She explained it all. And then she went on to that, and then she did something else. It's like, Melissa, babe, make up your own mind. Are you going to explain everything to me, or are you going to be a teenage witch for the rest of your life? Make up your mind.
I go back to when she was with the Ghoulies. Okay, that's a cartoon reference. Okay. All right. That goes back to the 70s and the 60s. So.
Oh, okay.
And the Archies.
I didn't understand the reference because it was long
the
before
Archies,
my time.
There you go. Way before your time, Ryan.
I didn't. I've only
Pull out the
read
pacifier.
some. I've read some Archie, so like Riverdale is lost on me.
Really, they totally dropped the ball with that. Like they had Afterlife with Archie was right there. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to.
But I'm just kind of like I don't get it. But that's not where the hate comes from. I mean, like I don't mean for it to be anything other than, you took something and you kind of, bastardized it a little bit and made it real weird. And I'm not a fan of any time you screw something up that badly, because I'm a huge Vampire Diaries fan, the novel. Like, I'm gonna tell you, the book is better than whatever they created. Like, it was
Twilight the series, you mean?
yeah, except for Vampire Diaries happened long before
That is true.
Twilight was even, sprinkle in the
Didn't that book
imagination of
come out in
Stephanie Meyer.
92 or something like that?
1992. I read it when I was 12.
Oh my goodness.
So, and before that, L.J. Smith wrote The Secret Circle, which was also another CW show
I
didn't
missed
survive.
that show.
But you can have supernatural elements and do it right. I don't know what the fuck Riverdale is, but whatever.
It's
But
teeny
I
bopperish.
I kind of love Sabrina. Like I love Netflix's,
Well, what happened was they took her back to her dark roots in the comics. If you go, there's a graphic novel out, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and it is dark and it is brutal in some of the stuff that goes on. And so that's what they've adapted. They haven't adapted the Archies. I mean, they make reference to Riverdale in the first couple of episodes, but other than that, it's a dark story. I mean, my wife loves it, and they fall in love with the actress. But
I think we've predetermined that I'm into the dark shit anyway, so it's okay.
Well, I never read
Dark
like
and
Archie
gritty.
proper, but I'm totally on the Archie horror train, which is why I was so disappointed with Riverdale, because Afterlife with Archie was coming out, and I had never read Archie before, and that series is so freaking good.
That's the one when Archie battles zombies and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. It's basically zombies with Archie, and it was so good. And then they were like, "Oh, Riverdale." I was like, "Oh yes, maybe they'll go the dark route," but it just
no, it went the soap opera route, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's teeny bopperish soap opera on the CW. I mean,
yeah. CW. It's a classic CW show.
Yep.
CW they have a formula and it seems to be
really
working.
good. CW has done good stuff. It's just I don't know what the hell they were thinking.
Well, I'll say this about Adaptations. One that I'm currently watching that I'm enjoying a hell of a lot is Stargirl.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
I'm taping all of it. Yeah. Once it's all aired, I'm going to binge watch it in 2 days. So please do not spoil it for me.
Yeah.
I'll try not.
Is this actual tape or is this digital?
No. It's on my DVR. I'm taping it off of CW, so I'm gonna watch it once all the episodes have dropped.
Since they had it in the trailer, I'm gonna mention it briefly. It was nice to see the Justice Society.
Oh yes.
And there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm dying to talk to somebody who's seen it. Because
sorry, I haven't binged it yet.
James Robinson's Starman is literally probably my favorite superhero run of all time. So I'm gonna end up watching it eventually.
This is a lot of fun. It is a CW formulaic superhero thing.
It's got a bigger budget though than the actual CW shows, and you can tell. Yeah. That's why it's on DC Universe first.
And then they drop it on CW.
I was surprised.
I really love when I really love when they take essentially no-name people and they give them this starting point. Like, Luke Wilson is, I think, underrated as
I was surprised
the
to see him on the show.
But I enjoy the fact that all of the new characters are kind of surrounded by him. But I also I have not read any of the Justice nothing of that.
Neither have I.
Watching like all these new characters, then I get excited about it, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll go back and check some of this stuff out. But
I'm watching.
They're all new. Like they're actors and actresses I haven't seen in. I mean, I know they're all young, so really they've only been on Earth for a certain amount of time. But like to give new actors and actresses a launching point.
Well,
they're
yeah, from
being
the watching
viewed.
point of view, yeah. But for me, as a comic book guy, I'm looking at it, and my mind is immediately screaming a certain book from the 1980s. Okay, and I think Roland knows which one I'm talking about.
I
The
think.
way he's nutting, where a certain artist got his start, on in the later issues. But I'm trying not to spoil it for you, Ryan. Okay, so
I know you're walking on a few different eggshells there, because I come from the thing where I grew up on movies and TV series. So I was introduced to Stargirl on Smallville when they did the Justice Society of America
right.
crossover with Smallville. Smallville, what's up, guys? I love you people.
Yes.
Those were some good episodes. Those
Yeah.
crossovers, or whenever they introduced new characters that I'm not familiar with into the show, I was going out of my mind. I was like, Smallville, yes, give me some fresh faces. And you gave me Stargirl, you gave me Dr. Fate, who was incredible on that episode. Dr. Fate was incredible. You get Martian Manhunter, played by Jackie Childs from Seinfeld. What's up, Phil Morris? I mean, you get all these characters in this show that I love already, and I'm like, dude, feed me more of these DC layers, baby, because I want it all. Give it to me.
Okay, so all I'm going to say,
One of these days, I hope to sit down and read more JSA stuff.
yeah, you went to Jeff Johns stuff. That's really good stuff. But all I have to say is Infinity Incorporated. Okay, the original. You can tell they took Stargirl right from those books.
Yeah. He's pointing at it. He's like, "Is that prop?
Is
right
that
there?"
that box
That
right
box
there.
right there. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That box is right there. That's the box, man.
And Todd McFarlane got his start on Infinity Incorporated.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
then, of course,
I'm
you
enjoying
know what
that.
happened with Todd.
So, but
Okay, so can we since we're talking about TV?
Sure.
Okay, so
oh,
Where's this gonna go? Hashtag Smallville for life. Just saying. Just saying.
So, as I previously referenced, I really like the dark shit. But so Netflix saved a show that was on Fox, and it is a Neil Gaiman adaptation, which I know lots of people are like not even remotely close. Which I haven't read Neil Gaiman. I haven't read that. So I'm just saying, like, Lucifer is another nice like launching point for people that want to read comic book stuff. Like,
no.
Lucifer by Neil Gaiman, even though it's not true to the source material, but it also crossed over another one, which was Constantine. So like Lucifer, Constantine, and all of them ended up in the Arrowverse on CW, and so like. We've come kind of a little ways from Constantine via Keanu Reeves.
Oh,
To
Let's talk about that.
as played by
Matt Ryan's Constantine.
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan is great.
I didn't hate that. I'm sorry.
You didn't hate the other
I
race?
didn't hate it.
No, it's not. It's not terrible.
It's just weird
Yeah.
for me to see Neo, who would go on to become the best character of his career, John Wick, as Constantine. I just can't see it.
Yeah.
Had to pay the rent. Like,
He's John Wick, though. He's always going to be John Wick, no matter what.
I still didn't hate Constantine.
Yeah.
I mean, he was fine, but I didn't walk out of the theater going like, "Oh my god, this was awesome." No.
No.
I just couldn't reconcile it with John Constantine, the character that I loved. Like,
yeah.
it
That
just
was
wasn't
the problem I
that.
had.
It was a fine movie by itself, but it's not John
not-
Constantine.
Yeah, Matt
you.
Ryan is
Hellblazer.
Constantine.
It's not Hellblazer.
Exactly.
Mm.
Right.
But
It's
see, like,
just-
okay, if you haven't read Lucifer, okay, I'll say this right now: you are not going to be able to reconcile the show from the book. Okay,
Yeah, they're
there
very
is
different.
no way. Oh, they are so different. The book is 100% hardcore Vertigo writings. Okay, it is dark. It is gruesome. They deal with serious philosophical issues in the book Lucifer. They talk about the existence or non-existence of a deity. I mean, they just call the whole scam.
pretty much right down my alley, which is okay.
Okay, that's fine. But the show, what's the show? It's a cop buddy show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is. But
But-
if it opens the door for somebody to open the pages of a well-loved graphic novel, then
That's
Why
fair.
not?
All right, I'll grant you.
Because I do like Tom
that's-
Ellis.
That's where I'm at. Like, I'm sorry, but if I probably never would have read Lucifer had I not watched the show first. And I don't care if the, you know, the sex devil Tom Ellis isn't what Lucifer is. Like, I'm okay with that. Except for the fact that I will at that point be able to reconcile. It's not like I read the book and I'm like, what the fuck did they do? Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
So if you like Lucifer, how do you feel about Preacher?
Oh, that's a good
Brian
question.
I only watched what?
We watched a
Like,
couple episodes.
It was only a couple episodes. And then
Mhm.
for whatever reason, he stopped putting it on. So if he stops putting it on the TV, I'm probably not going to watch it.
It must be bad if he doesn't continue watching it.
I'm just saying, like, I am a creature of habit. So if it is something that I've watched and loved, I will watch it again and again and again and again. And so a lot of times the new stuff isn't something that I'll necessarily see unless somebody puts it in front of me and says, you must watch this. So and you're talking to a girl that's seen 10 Things I Hate About You 87 times.
Hey, it's a
Wow.
good
I've
movie.
got problems.
It's a good movie. I'm not gonna lie.
But what I think she was saying, and I agree, is if these films or shows get people going back and entering our world, because we all love comics, if they come back and enter our world and be like, oh, there's like all this stuff, I think that's a
all this
win.
stuff.
Yeah,
Stuff.
I
It's called
agree.
Stuff, Brian. Stuff,
I agree.
you know?
The only problem with that is, and I wish it were not the case, any kind of marketing research done by Marvel or DC about films affecting comic sales, when a comic film comes out, you get a tiny spike, but then you drop back to normal.
Yep.
So as much as I agree with you, and I would absolutely love the idea that people who go see these films will convert into comic buyers,
they don't.
data
No.
is just not there to support that.
No, they don't.
No.
It's just not.
No.
I wish that
there
were
is-
not the case.
Right.
And that's unfortunate, but there is a
Yeah.
handful of us nerdy folk like that who saw The Crow first in the movie theater twice, and then read the book and had the same kind of appreciation for the movie as I did for the book. So it was like, you know, it kind of like opened the door for me to be a comic fan. And so I was reading other stuff. I mean, I was reading other stuff, and it wasn't even superhero stuff. It was other, like I read Strangers in Paradise. I read,
But so
You know,
see, you were already
I read
nerdy.
weird
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Who's to say that people are not going to the library and checking them out instead of actually buying them?
because the
true.
number of
Yeah,
libraries that are carrying graphic novels is
Because-
much lower
because
than what's
if-
actually true.
If you ever talk to a librarian, they'll tell you that their budget for replacement books is huge, especially with graphic novels. The books either get stolen or they get damaged, and so hence they have to replace all these graphic novels, and that would show up in the sales, and it doesn't.
But I think
So-
it's because a lot of libraries aren't carrying them. They're not in the libraries the way they should be. And
Well, then you need to come up north because they're in my
Right.
library.
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
a
yeah,
lot
they're in
better than it
mine,
was
too.
30 years ago.
I agree. I mean, I agree, but it's the same as keeping a comic or a graphic novel on the shelf in my classroom.
Mhm.
It's like in my classroom, I have an issue of Bone that is held together with spit, spackle, and tape. Like it is so loved, and it was only in my classroom for a year. And the fact that at this point, instead of replacing that issue, I bought the omnibus instead. I mean, must say something about how people are translating it. Although I'm still telling you that comic books aren't used in the classroom nearly as much as they should be. And I'm all about text that needs to be complex, and I'm all about kids thinking about, you know, all the shit that they should be thinking about. But if you look at comic books and you look at the vocabulary and the volume of words in a comic book or a graphic novel versus what's in some of our literature texts, it is higher level than most just regular books we read. So to try to get people to understand that as an educator, I'm like, I love books. Like I have 5 that I have on a list that I need to read for my classroom next year, but like at the end of the day, it's like I can't get people to understand that comic books are doing the same thing that our literature is doing. It's teaching them vocabulary. It's teaching them how to look, like to build characters and to look between the panels. It's teaching them how to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if we don't start somewhere by saying, hey, this is on the shelf, then, we're doing a disservice to our kids. But
I mean, it goes back to the stigma of comic books versus graphic novels, I think.
And the reason probably Ghost World and Sisters and Teeth and some of those other graphic novels that are slightly more literary comics, those end up on the shelves at Scholastic book fairs, and that's how we're at least getting them out to kids. A lot of the stuff that we want our kids to read probably isn't something that they're going to have in their hands. My 6th grade class in 2018? No, 2016 read God Loves Man Kills.
Yeah.
And and minus the fact that there is one questionable word and some probably scantily clad women, but at the end of the day, the kids didn't really care about that. What they cared about was the fact that there was an actual story being told. And so we have to start putting these things in people's hands and stop saying, well, it's because it's a comic book. I don't know, just call it a graphic novel and call it a day.
What you do then is you got to attack it from a different angle, because I do this all the time with people. Is to the kids, I give the superheroes that I talk to. Okay, to the adults, I give things like Maus. Okay, I give them things like I can't pronounce it.
Persepolis.
Thank you. I give that one to the parents, or even to the older kids. You got to start with your tops. The top quality stuff before you move on to some of the other stuff. Okay, you got to find that top 10 of the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
And this is what we can do here. And if you don't do that, you're not going to catch them. Okay, if you get enough quality in the parents' hands, they won't care about what the other comic books the kids are reading. I've seen it happen.
But I would also argue that a lot of what people consider to be quality graphic novels are not necessarily the best of the best. I mean, they tackle like subjects that are historically important and therefore should be learned about, which is great. But as far as like the actual storytelling, I think people are always going to look for stuff that's historical slice of life, whatever, to be the top graphic novels. They're not going to look at manga, for example.
No,
they're not going to look at any run on a superhero.
I would argue that every generation comes into comics in a different way. So the people who are adults now buying comics generally came to it through manga, because manga was such a big deal in bookstores in the 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah.
And now the kids are being exposed to comics through things like Dogman and Captain Underpants and all of Raina Telgemeier's books. Those are the comic books that are stimulating kids, getting them interested in what we can get to them to read next, which would be some of the better graphic novels. They're being exposed to comic concepts through Marvel Universe, through video games, things like that. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily flocking to reading Marvel comics or DC comics, because I think to them Superman is a movie character as opposed to a comic book character. But when I had a shop for years, the best time for new people to come in and buy was when a trailer for a new concept or a new movie was dropped. And people were like, oh man, what's Hellboy? I don't know what Hellboy is. I want to read that. Let me find out what that is. Or, I'm trying to think of a recent comic adaptation of something that's new, but that's not Marvel or DC. But you would see these spikes where people who were not interested in comics normally would see something that interested them, and they wanted to read the source material first. And I think that's a big trick, is sending them in the right direction and having reading lists, and of course shows like this where we talk about the best graphic novels and the best adaptations, things like that.
Well, and I think that's also important to remember that most people, when they come into comics, they do not read single issues. They go straight to trades.
So
Right.
'Cause that's how that's how they're used to reading books.
Yeah.
They're not gonna buy something, every month that's only 25 pages or whatever, because that's not the way they think. So.
And I think that's
Jump in there, Ryan.
I think that's certainly a trend in comic reading as well. Much like television, people.
Mhm.
I mean, I've heard Ryan say multiple times, and I haven't binged that. I haven't binged that. I haven't binged that. And I am a fan of episodic stuff. I like
Same.
I like to be able to watch something and then end on kind of a cliffhanger and go, man, let me chew this over for a little bit. Let me think about what's happened before I go to the next one. But I also realize that's not, the majority of consumers now want to binge. They want to do it with their comic books too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Ryan. If I step.
Yeah, no. I was just gonna jump in and say, I came into comics much later in the swing of things. Like I just got into comic books 3 years ago, so I'm, once again, better late than never, kids. Just remember that. And I gotta tell you, ever since I went to my first comic book store, I mean, I've been to comic book stores when I was a little kid, but I didn't give it much thought. I was just, there with my brothers at the time. But I went to my local comic book store, and the moment I walked into this particular one in my area, not too far from where I live now, I go in there, and this girl comes up to me. She's like, hey, welcome to so and so. First time here. I said, yeah. She said, all right. Well, what do you like? What are you looking? What do you like to read? I said, well, I got to be honest. I haven't really read any comics, so I'm the new kid in school. Do you, what am I supposed to do? So then I told her my favorite characters. Superloop, I love you, man. The Superloop, the Dark Knight, anything DC or Marvel, I'm just down for, because that's what I'm used to. That's what I'm used to seeing, because I grew up on the movies and the TV series as a kid. I'm like, okay, here's an aisle here, and it says, for new comic readers, this is what you should read. I'm like, that's a big row. That's a big aisle of books. I don't know if I have the cash money to pay for all this, but if you had to recommend 2 or 3 titles that aren't going to break my broken college kid bank, what would you recommend to the broke college kid? And she gave me all these titles. I'm like, okay. And I took them home and I read them. Damn, I wish I would have gotten into comics much younger, because there are some darn good titles by some great writers, some great artists. Like right now, I would say my favorite graphic novel is Kingdom Come by Alex Ross and Mark Wade. That graphic novel blows my mind of how good that is. And then I read Flashpoint. Flashpoint's another darn good one, I think. And then I got into a few back issues here and there. So because of going to my local comic shops and then telling me, hey, we know you're the new kid, but here's some stuff we recommend, I appreciate them for doing that. Because of them and because of what I've read, I appreciate these characters much more now than I did when I was 3 or 4 watching Tim Burton's Batman on VHS a billion times, to the point where I broke the tape, folks. I broke the tape of my favorite Batman movie, and I'm looking at you, Tim Burton, 1989. So I love the what I'm trying to say is, in a nutshell, the comic books that I'm reading now make me appreciate the characters more now than I did when I was a kid. And it makes me appreciate the lengths to the writers and the artists that they go through to put these things out. Because I got to be honest, comic books are phenomenal. They're just phenomenal. And I feel like Gaston in Beauty and the Beast, where he says, how can you read this? There's no pictures. I need pictures because I love comics and I love art. And that's why I love comics so much. It's because of the artwork. It's because of the writing, depending on who you're reading and who's doing the writing and the illustrating. But man, all I'm going to say is props to everybody who's ever worked in the comic book industry, because you make some great stuff. So my hats are off to those individuals.
Ryan, go find a book called The Marvels.
Yeah.
That's sort of a history of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex Ross art. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
Well, I am a big Alex Ross fan, so I'll take any Alex Ross flavor that I can get.
Why don't we go? Everybody recommend a book for Ryan.
Well, you might want to put it on a list, because I'm not going to remember this verbally.
Yeah.
Just put it in the chat or put it into my messenger on Facebook. Just, send me a message. I'll be there 24/7.
All right, Ryan. I'll send you a list.
Please do. It might be a mile long, is what I'm trying. It's the vibe I'm trying to get. I may be getting from you, but I don't care. I'll do my best to read them. And then, hey, we're in the middle of summer. I have summer reading, folks, before I go back to school. So give me all the summer reading you can throw at me.
So I'll say one observation I have as a college instructor. So because I teach creative writing and I use comics in my classroom, my students today are more open to a wide variety of content. and let me give you an example. So, like when I was younger, if I were to recommend a comic book to my non-comic reading friends, if it wasn't a Marvel or DC comic, then they were like, I don't that has no color in it. I'm not interested in it. It's black and white. I like my comics to have color, right? Or I want Batman, or I want Spider-Man, or something like that. I used to see that a lot. My students today are kind of like, I don't really care if it's Batman or Superman. Give me something different. They seem to be far more open to content that is independently published. And I like that. That excites me. That shows me that they're not going to say, I'm only going to buy this because it's Spider-Man, or I'm only going to buy this because it's Batman. They're like, give me something good. That's what they're saying. Is give me something good, and they're wide open, and that excites me because these are young college students that are just they're like.
They want you to flip their head open and pour the good stuff in.
Yeah. So and that excites me. Makes me excited.
Yeah, as a career college student, I can appreciate that, Roland.
Well, I know I left, a whole bunch of movies that were adapted off the show just because we would be here all day. There really is more than even what I have here in front of me.
Yeah.
But just quick, I'll mention a couple here that are here. V for Vendetta, which I think was a fantastic read, and I enjoyed the film. And then another one is Stardust, which I love that film.
The best thing about Stardust, I gotta say, I guess, is De Niro's character.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
The pirate.
But just watching him cross-dress is hysterical. Okay, you don't expect De Niro to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I was saying. It was a great casting. I think they surprised everybody in that role. It was fun.
Yeah, and it also introduced us to Charlie Cox.
Yes.
Who would later on
Daredevil.
Daredevil, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Murdock, which I hope to meet at a convention once Earth reopens, Charlie.
But before we end the show here, I do want to say thank you to all of you for wanting to do this. We love having different voices on with their opinions and thoughts.
Yes, because I just sit here and take notes.
Oh no, guys, we're being graded.
It's the teacher. There'll be a pop quiz.
Oh no!
No, because I write down every book that I'm not familiar with, or everything that I'm not familiar with, so that I can look at it and see, is it something that I want to spend my time for? Because there's only so many waking hours in the moment, and there's even fewer when you're a mom. So, I'm thinking of time that I might have to be able to actually finish reading anything.
I mean, hey, Jack Nicholson said it best: so much to do in so little time.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I write down all this stuff, but I write down the list of books, and then I write down stuff that you guys say, because I'm like, oh, that's a good. I never thought about that. So, I'm the nerdy one. I'm the super nerd, I guess. I don't
Are there levels of nerdom? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, there are, but you'll get it as you go along,
And you'll hear an audible ding when you level up.
Thank you, Jerome and Roland. I like that.
So, where can everybody find you guys on social media? We'll start with you, Kevin.
Oh, I'm on Facebook as Kevin Boyd. I'm on Twitter, not very often, but as Kev the Mev, Kev_the_Mev. And I believe I'm on Instagram as Kev the Mev. So, which is a stupid name. It just doesn't mean anything. So.
And then, of
something
course,
I got in college. Yeah.
People can, that are in the industry, they could go to Fan Expo and find out about your shows and stuff like that.
There's all the shows have their own websites and social media. Like there's a Twitter account, an Instagram account, a Facebook account for each show. My consulting business that I work for, I work for myself, but I do this for Fan Expo. It's comicbooklounge.com is my website. And the Joe Shuster Awards would be joeshusterawards.com if you would like to learn about Canadian comic creators and the history of comics in
There was
Canada.
There was the about. I heard it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. Yes.
I've worked with a handful of Canadian creators. Mm-hmm. Leonard Kirk, Terry Pallett.
Yeah, Leonard's great.
Yeah. So what about you, Ryan? Where can people find you?
Yes, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. You can check out my podcast. It's called The Nerdcast. It's free to download on Anchor, Apple, Google, wherever you download your podcast. You can find me there talking about movies past and present. I've been binge watching a whole bunch of movies lately, so please feel free to enjoy that. You can also follow me on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com if you're a diehard movie buff like myself. Letterboxd.com.
What's your username?
My username is RyanMovieBuff on Letterboxd.com. You can find me there, and also check out our YouTube channel. It's called Nerd Culture. You can find us on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. At It's Nerd Culture. We got a whole bunch of videos up right now. We got new ones coming your way very soon. And just to give everyone a heads up, I'm going to be doing a 25th anniversary celebration / watch along with Thomas Carter Rochester, aka Life of Thor. We're going to be doing a 25th. Yeah, we're going to be doing a 25th anniversary celebration watch along of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. That's right, folks. If you remember that little kids show, remember those colored heroes in spandex? Well, guess what? We're going to celebrate them, and we're going to do it the more phenomenal way on June 30th. On Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Thomas Carter Rochester Actor Facebook page. We're going to go live there. It's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, and more than anything else, it's going to be more phenomenal. If you grew up in '93, you know what I'm talking about. So I will leave that up to you and my fellow fans of the '90s. We love you out there. But other than that, thanks for having me, and I look forward to being on the show one day again, hopefully soon.
Thank you, Ryan. Jerome?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter as Connor Hood 1707. You can find me on Instagram, and that's Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. We do the Saturday morning cartoon show. This next one coming up is my show, and it'll be Scooby-Doo based. So lots of people ripping off masks going, if it hadn't been for those meddling kids. So. And if you want to find previous shows, you can find us with the Hanging with the Show channel on YouTube.
All right. Yes, they're a bunch of great group there.
Take care, yes.
Yeah.
A great cast of characters.
I was gonna say, don't they carry you guys also?
Yeah. Roland, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook at Roland Man. You can find me on Twitter, rarely, at Man Roland. You can also find Silverline. You can find it Silverline on Facebook, Silverline Comics. If you prefer websites, we're just silverlinecomics.com. A bunch of the creators of Silverline stream 3 times a week, Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, where we just talk comic books and making comics and all kinds of fun stuff. And thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. And Holly, where can people find you?
I'm occasionally on Twitter at Junk Story. I'm on Instagram metal_I. I do a bi-weekly YouTube show / podcast on Horror Web called Dungeons and Deadly Delights, where we talk about a horror trope every episode. And I do the Famous Monsters podcast, famousmonsters.com. And I have a Facebook, but I tend to save it for people I actually know. So, but there's also a Facebook page where you can keep up with my creative stuff if you want to. So.
And you can find us right here on Facebook at Reels and Heels and on the Hanging With Web Show YouTube channel. And you can also find the audio-only podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever podcast distributor that you follow. And once again, thank you, all of you, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, actually, not next week. We're taking a break. We'll be back July 4th for our WWF Attitude Era special, which that's going to be fun.
Fireworks and all.
Ryan, you're going to be back for that one.
Maybe I'll be back. Maybe I'll make a surprise appearance. Maybe I'll make an emergency run in to help one of my buddies in trouble in the ring. Who knows? I could do a run-in episode, guys. Who knows, man?
Right.
If I do, I'm going to be wearing my NWO shirt. I'm just saying.
All right, guys. Well, until the 4th. Damn it! I don't even know the.
We need a catchphrase.
We're trying to make that.
Yeah, May the 4th be with you. Excuse me. Even though it already happened.
Yeah. Well, keep entertaining yourself. As
Who
Dino
let the
Barton-
dogs out? There's your catchphrase right there.
Yeah.